Chapter 28-23. Entering the Pill Formation Pagoda. This Zhuan is done for. He actually provoked Yin Wuxia to attack him so mercilessly. He's dead for sure. The difference is too big. This Zhuan is only Lord Hunyuan. Yin Wuxia's attack is enough to make this Zhuan die without a burial ground. Everyone was discussing. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping, who was guarding nearby, suddenly stood up and shouted, "Yin Wuxia, this is the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance. How dare you attack as you please? Are you looking down on the Pill Formation Immortal Alliance?" However, Yin Wuxia acted as if he didn't hear him. His attack became even faster, and it instantly engulfed Zhuowen's figure. Boom! A huge pit appeared in the plaza. Smoke filled the air, and the plaza was completely silent. The instant Yin Wuxia attacked, he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized to Huan Taiping. "Grandmaster Huan, this Zhuan doesn't know what's good for him. He attacked and killed a disciple of the 10 Extreme Yin Corpse sect in the Divine Medicine Valley. Furthermore, he used despicable methods to steal 4 Genesis grade divine herbs from me. I suppressed him in a fit of anger. Now that something like this has happened, it's really unintentional." Yin Wuxia's words were sincere, and she even lowered her status. Huan Taiping landed not far in front of Yin Wuxia. Just as he was about to speak, a figure suddenly jumped out and slapped Yin Wuxia's face. Yin Wuxia's attention was focused on Huan Taiping, so he wasn't prepared. He was directly slapped to the ground, looking extremely pathetic. "Who is it?" Yin Wuxia immediately stood up and looked forward with bloodshot eyes. He was shocked to find that the person who had attacked him was actually Zhuan. "You're not dead?" Yin Wuxia asked in disbelief. The surroundings were in an uproar. Clearly, no one had expected that Zhuan would be safe and sound under the attack of a late-stage Genesis grade cultivator. "Old dog Yin, the divine medicine in the Divine Medicine Valley isn't yours. What right do you have to say that it was snatched from your hands? You old dog, you are truly shameless," Zhuowen said coldly. Yin Wuxia was enraged. Just as he was about to make a move to teach Zhuowen a lesson, Huan Taiping stopped him. "Elder Yin, I won't say anything about you making a move in the square without permission. If you dare to act recklessly in front of me again, then don't blame me for being impolite." As Huan Taiping spoke, the restrictive array formation on the surface of the plaza suddenly became powerful and terrifying, firmly locking Yin Wuxia in place. Yin Wuxia had no doubt that as long as he dared to make a move, the restrictions around the square would immediately transform into a killing array. At that time, he would be in trouble. He had seen the might of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's restriction array. If it was fully activated, it could even kill a Genesis Lord like him. "Since that's the case, I'll take my leave first." Yin Wuxia saw that he couldn't make a move and didn't want to stay here for long. He simply left the square. "Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan." After Yin Wuxia left, Yuan cupped his fists towards Huan Taiping to express his gratitude. Huan Taiping waved his hand and looked at Zhuan. "This Yin Wuxia probably won't let this go so easily. I see that your talent in alchemy is very strong. If you join my Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I guarantee that once you advance to the Eternal Grade, I'll immediately confer you the position of an Elder of the Alliance." Zhuan cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks for Grandmaster Huan's kindness. It's my honor to be able to join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. However, I have a request. After I join the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance can't restrict my freedom." Huan Taiping nodded and said, "As long as you become an Elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance naturally won't restrict your freedom. Moreover, you'll be able to enjoy the various benefits of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance." Zhuowen frowned. He knew that Huan Taiping was implying that only after he became an Eternal Grade Alchemist would he have the qualifications to enjoy the freedom of an Elder. "Since that's the case, I'll think about it first. After I leave the Pill Array Pagoda, I'll give Grandmaster Huan an answer. How about it?" Zhuowen said in a deep voice. Seeing Zhuowen decline, Huan Taiping frowned slightly. His eyes flashed and he finally nodded. "All right, we'll discuss this after you leave the Pill Array Pagoda. Now, you're going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. Take this jade slip." This jade slip records the rules of the Pill Array Pagoda. Before you enter the Pill Array Pagoda, you'd better take a look. Zhuan kept the jade slip. He was very grateful towards Huan Taiping in his heart. Shortly after, he cupped his fists and said, "Many thanks, Grandmaster Huan. Now, I'm going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I hope that Grandmaster Huan can open the door to the Pill Array Pagoda." Yes, this Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. If you want to go up, you'll have to comprehend the Pill Array Dao of the corresponding level. You're only an alchemist, so you only need to comprehend the Pill Dao. As for the Array Dao, you can ignore it. After Huan Taiping finished speaking, he waved his sleeve and opened the door to the bottom of the Pill Array Pagoda. Zhuan's figure flashed and entered the pagoda. This Zhuan is going to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. I wonder which level he'll be able to enter. The Pill Array Pagoda has 12 levels. I heard that the strongest Genesis grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance only reached the 10th level. Have you forgotten about the creation grade alchemist of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? I heard that he reached the 11th level. Chapter 28-24. The mysterious pill refining book's abnormality. After a moment of dizziness, Zhuan opened his eyes. What he saw was a space that looked like a starry sky. His surroundings were cold and dark. In this strange space, there were flowing lights that looked like shooting stars. The tracks of the flowing lights were like strands of silk. They were intertwined and complicated. Zhuan knew that the traces left behind by the flowing lights were the Dao rhythm of the Pill Array Grand Dao. As long as he entered the traces of flowing lights, he would be able to comprehend the 2 Grand Daos of Pill Array Grand Dao. If he gained anything, his Dao Array level would increase greatly. Zhuan didn't recklessly enter the traces of flowing lights. Instead, he took out the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him and studied it carefully. His eyes flickered and he fell into deep thought. He was currently on the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda, which was also the lowest level. According to the jade letter that Huan Taiping gave him, the Pill Array Pagoda was, as its name suggested, split into 2 parts, Pill Dao and Array Dao. Zhuan was currently outside of the traces of flowing lights. This meant that he hadn't truly entered the Pill Array Pagoda's trial. This was a buffer for the Pill Array masters who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. It gave them enough time to choose whether they wanted to comprehend Pill Dao or Array Dao. Zhuan walked to the front of the traces of flowing lights. There was a jade platform that was half the height of a person. This jade platform was very ordinary. The jade on the surface had lost its luster. However, at the top of the jade platform, there was a circular pattern. This pattern was divided into 2 areas. From Zhuan's understanding, it was easy to see that these 2 areas represented pills and arrays. These were the buttons for the cultivators who entered the Pill Array Pagoda. If one wanted to comprehend Pill Dao, they had to press the button for pills. Otherwise, they had to press the button for arrays. Zhuan's eyes flickered. He extended his hand and pressed the buttons for the 2 diagrams together. He was both a pill master and an array master. This was an extremely rare opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda. Naturally, he couldn't just comprehend Pill Dao. When he pressed the buttons for pills and arrays, the flowing lights in front of him suddenly surged. They formed a wave and swept Zhuan in. At this moment, the people around the square discovered that the Pill Array Pagoda, which had not changed before, was now emitting a dazzling light. Moreover, this light split into 2 regions on the surface of the Pill Array Tower. One region revealed the illusory image of the pill, while the other region revealed the illusory image of the array. Of course, the 2 shadows only appeared on the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda. This little fellow actually activated the buttons of the Pill Array's 2 great regions at the same time. Is he trying to comprehend the Pill Array's 2 great Dao runes at the same time? Huan Taiping's eyes were filled with shock, and he could not help but blurt out. The old man standing beside Huan Taiping, Fang Zisher's expression wasn't much better than Huan Taiping's. One had to know that there were many cultivators in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance who cultivated both Pill Dao and Array Dao at the same time. However, almost none of them dared to enter the Pill Array Pagoda and comprehend the Pill Array Dao at the same time. It wasn't that they couldn't comprehend it at the same time, but that they didn't dare to do so. A person's energy was limited. Even a cultivator would find it hard to do two things at the same time. Even if they could do it, the efficiency would be much lower than focusing on one thing. There were many greedy cultivators like Zhuan in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. They didn't want to waste the opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda, so they chose to comprehend the Pill Array Dao at the same time. However, in the end, they couldn't even pass the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda. This was because comprehending both Pill Dao and Array Dao at the same time created a strong disturbance. If one wanted to comprehend both thoroughly, they would end up with nothing. Tai Ping, didn't you tell this little fella about this taboo? It seems like this little fellow won't be able to pass the first level. This opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda has been wasted. Fong Zisher shook his head and sighed. Guan Taiping smiled bitterly. This was indeed his mistake. He always thought that Zhuan was only a pill refiner and didn't know the Array Dao. Therefore, he didn't remind Zhuan of this taboo. If he knew that Zhuan also knew the Array Dao, he would have warned Zhuan not to be too greedy. On the first level of the Pill Array Pagoda, countless streams of light surged, leaving behind dazzling scars in the air. If one looked carefully, these streams of light could be divided into two different colors. One was a fiery red, representing the Pill Dao. The other was a cold blue, representing the Array Dao. Zhuan was in the middle of these two Dao. He was like a small boat in the middle of the ocean that could capsize at any time. At this moment, Zhuan's heart was bitter. He didn't think that activating both the Pill Dao and Array Dao would cause such a rapid chain reaction. Due to the conflict between the two Dao, the Dao was in chaos. Zhuan didn't even need to talk about comprehending them. It was already good enough that he could protect himself. I can't continue like this. Otherwise, I won't even be able to pass the first level and will be kicked out. Wouldn't that be a waste of this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to enter the Pill Array Pagoda? Zhuan's eyes flashed and he took out the mysterious pill book. This mysterious pill book had an extraordinary origin and there were many things he didn't know about it. Now that he encountered an unexpected situation in the Pill Array Pagoda, he could only take out this mysterious pill book to test it out. What surprised Zhuan was that after he took out the mysterious pill book, the violent Pill Dao around him calmed down. Then, Zhuan shockingly discovered that the mysterious pill book was violently absorbing the surrounding Pill Dao. In less than an hour, the red streams of light that represented the Pill Dao were completely absorbed by the mysterious pill book. Then, Zhuan discovered that the surface of the mysterious pill book had changed quite a bit. Originally, whether it was the cover or the pages inside the mysterious pill book, they were all blank. It was like a heavenly book without words. The only words were the last few pages of pill formulas and some records about the Pill Dao. This was because Zhuan's Pill Dao had improved by a lot. The contents of the mysterious pill book had increased according to his Pill Dao standards. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any words in the mysterious pill book. Now that the mysterious pill book had absorbed the Pill Array Pagoda's Pill Dao, many words appeared in the blank pages. Zhuan came to a sudden realization. He knew that there were records in the mysterious pill book. In the past, the reason why he couldn't see the contents of the mysterious pill book was because his Pill Dao standards were too low. He didn't have enough Pill Dao, so he couldn't reveal the original contents of the mysterious pill book. Chapter 28-25. True Pill Array Record. Originally, Zhuan thought that this mysterious pill book would stop after absorbing all the Pill Dao spirituality of the Pill Array Pagoda's first level. However, he realized that he was wrong. This was because after this mysterious pill book finished absorbing the Pill Dao's Dao, it actually started to absorb the Array Dao's Dao. Streaks of blue light were absorbed by the mysterious pill book like a whale sucking in water. Zhuan was dumbfounded when he saw this. Wasn't this a pill book? Why was it absorbing the Array Dao's Dao? However, Zhuan soon calmed down. He looked at the mysterious pill book and started to ponder seriously. It seemed like this mysterious pill book wasn't just a pill book. It was probably a godly pill book that combined the Pill Dao and Array Dao. After the Array Dao's Dao was completely absorbed, Zhuan discovered that 4 bold and powerful words appeared on the cover of this godly book. So this godly book's full name is True Pill Array Record. Zhuan muttered to himself. He couldn't help but flip open the True Pill Array Record. He was immediately attracted by the contents of this book. The True Alchemy Array Record explained the principles and processes of Alchemy Dao and Array Dao in simple terms. While Zhuowen was reading the True Alchemy Array Record, he was also constantly verifying his own Alchemy Array Dao and discovering many flaws and inadequacies. Zhuowen was intoxicated. After flipping through about 1/12 of the True Pill Array Record, he realized that the rest of the pages were all blank. Zhuowen put down the True Pill Array Record. He knew that if he wanted to read the rest of the True Pill Array Record, he would need to enter the higher levels of the Pill Array Pagoda. He would need to let the True Pill Array Record completely absorb the Pill Array Dao's Dao. Zhuowen kept the True Pill Array Record and walked towards the second level of the Pill Array Pagoda. He knew that with this True Pill Array Record, the Pill Array Pagoda wouldn't be a problem for him. The Pill Array Pagoda's second level was much denser and more intense than the first level. If Zhuowen relied on himself, he wouldn't be able to last for long on the second level. However, these terrifying Pill Array Daoist rhymes were not a problem for the True Pill Array Record. He absorbed them all. After the True Pill Array Record absorbed all the Pill Array Dao runes of the second level, some mysterious content appeared in the 1/12 blank space at the back of the record. Pun, on the other hand, was like a thirsty scholar as he tirelessly flipped through the contents of the True Record of Alchemy. His alchemy skills had also unknowingly improved as he flipped through the True Record of Alchemy. When Zhuowen reached the fourth level of the Pill Array Pagoda, his Array Dao level seemed to have been enlightened. He directly broke through the primordial chaos realm and rushed into the heaven's fate realm. Above Zhuowen's Tianling meridian, an invisible Array Dao ripple spread out. It actually resonated with the Array Dao spirituality within the Pill Array Tower. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with excitement. He didn't expect his Array Dao level to break through so quickly. He knew that all of this was due to the True Pill Array Record. Moreover, he also discovered that his Alchemy Dao level was faintly showing signs of breaking through. His Alchemy Dao level had already reached the mysterious level. If he took another step forward, he would reach the eternal level. As long as his Alchemy Dao level reached the eternal level, he would instantly become an elder the moment he entered the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This was what Huan Taiping had promised him. As Zhuowen continued to explore, more and more blank spaces appeared in the True Pill Array Record. Zhuowen's Alchemy Dao level also continued to rise. When Zhuowen reached the seventh level, his Array Dao level broke through again, reaching the mysterious level. His Alchemy Dao level reached the peak of the mysterious level. He wasn't far from the eternal level. In fact, if Zhuowen wanted to break through to the eternal level, he could do it. However, he didn't do so. Instead, he planned to break through to the eternal level in both his Alchemy Dao and Array Dao. After studying the True Pill Array Record, he knew that Alchemy Dao and Array Dao came from the same source. The two complemented each other. If the two were of the same level and advanced together, it would be of great help to his future Alchemy Dao cultivation. But if the two weren't of the same level, not only would they fail to complement each other, the lower level might even drag down the higher level. This was also the reason why Zhuowen would encounter two types of Dao charm when he planned to enter the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm. In the end, it became an obstacle for him to comprehend either Dao charm. If his Alchemy Dao and Array Dao levels were of the same level, then the two would form a balance. Entering the Pill Array Pagoda to comprehend the two types of Dao charm would be beneficial. The efficiency would even be higher than comprehending a single Dao charm. Zhuowen continued to move upwards. When he entered the Pill Array Pagoda's 10th level, 5/6 of the True Pill Array Record's blank spaces had already been filled with dense words and content. The moment Zhuowen entered the 10th level, Zhuowen's Alchemy Dao and Array Dao broke through simultaneously, reaching the eternal grade. Zhuowen's eyes flashed with a look of enlightenment. His hands kept forming seals in the void, and he took out array flags one after another. Unexpectedly, he set up an eternal level array formation in a short time. After setting up the formation, Zhuowen took out the Emperor Pill Cauldron and took out various herbs from the macro world. He planned to start alchemy directly on the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Advancing in the Alchemy Dao was much more troublesome than advancing in the Array Dao. Only after successfully refining a spirit pill of the corresponding level could one truly consolidate their advancement. This time, Zhuan was refining the most basic eternal level spirit pill, called the Eternal Pill. Opening the furnace and igniting the spirit flame, Zhuan methodically refined the Eternal Pill. The alchemy process flowed smoothly without the slightest sloppiness. To Zhuan's surprise, the process of refining the Eternal Pill went extremely smoothly. He succeeded on his first try. When he succeeded in refining the Eternal Pill, the look of enlightenment in his eyes deepened, and his understanding of the eternal level alchemy Dao deepened. He knew that from this moment on, he was an eternal level alchemy master. This pill array pagoda has a total of 12 levels. There are still 2 levels left. As long as I enter the last 2 levels, all the gaps in the true pill array record will be completed. Perhaps my alchemy skills will rise to another level. Zhuan's eyes fell on the stairs leading to the 11th level at the end of the 10th level. His eyes shone with excitement. Without any hesitation, he stepped onto the stairs and walked towards the 11th level. What Zhuan didn't know was that while he was breaking through the pill array pagoda, the square was as lively as a boiling pot. Even Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher, who were watching from the side, were dumbstruck. Their entire bodies froze on the spot. He actually broke through to the 10th level, and under the conditions of stimulating both the alchemy Dao and array Dao. The corners of Fang Zisher's mouth twitched. He didn't know what to say. In his opinion, Zhuan might not even be able to break through the first level. However, Zhuan's performance was as if he had broken through all the obstacles and directly entered the pill array pagoda's 10th level. Huan Taiping's shock wasn't any weaker than Fang Zisher's. At the same time, he was ecstatic. Chapter 28-26. Pill Array Immortal Alliance Leader. This time, after this kid comes out of the Pill Array Pagoda, even if his alchemy skills are still at the profound grade, I will still give him the position of an elder. Huan Taiping's eyes shone brightly as he smiled. Fang Zisher did not refute. He did not object to Zhuan becoming an elder of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, anyone who could reach the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda would become a Genesis Pill Master. The few old farts of their generation had reached the 10th level of the Pill Array Pagoda when they were young. Now, they had become the pillars of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Look, the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is lit up. Is Zhuan going to reach the 11th level? My God, I heard that there is only one person who can reach the 11th level in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, and that is the mysterious creation grade alchemist. He is also the #1 person behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda is really lit up. This Zhuan is too ferocious. He actually reached this level. He is definitely abnormal. After discovering that the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was lit up, everyone in the plaza exclaimed. Discussions swept out like a tidal wave. Everyone was shocked. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were completely frozen. Their mouths were slightly open, and they could not say a single word. This Zhuan must be roped into the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, no matter the cost. Fang Zisher was the first to regain his senses. He made up his mind. Zhuan was really too heaven-defying. He was actually able to reach the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. One had to know that in the entire Pill Array Immortal Alliance, only the mysterious creation grade alchemist, who was also the ruler behind the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, had reached the 11th level. But now, there was one more person. If the Pill Array Immortal Alliance did not rope in such a genius, then their Pill Array Immortal Alliance would really have a screw loose. Huan Taiping was also pleasantly surprised. His heart was like a turbulent sea, and he could not calm down. Zhuan closed the true Pill Array record again, and the light of understanding in his eyes became more and more obvious. He was currently at the 11th level of the Pill Array Pagoda, and after the Pill Array True Record absorbed the Pill Array Dao aura of this level, the newest 1/12 of the content had appeared. Zhuan had also finished reading it. At this moment, Zhuan's Alchemy Dao and Array Dao had both reached the peak of the eternal level. The more he read the True Alchemy Array record, the more enlightened Zhuan became. Naturally, his comprehension of the true alchemy array record also increased. Although Zhuowen's level of alchemy array had just advanced to the eternal grade, the true alchemy array record had inspired him greatly. It had allowed him to improve his alchemy array level to the peak of the eternal grade in a short period of time. Zhuowen had a premonition that if he could study the entire true pill formation record, perhaps he would be able to see through the third step of pill formations and directly advance to the God of Creation stage. This premonition became more and more intense in Zhuowen's mind, and Zhuowen's heart also became more and more passionate. If he could reach the God of Creation stage in all his alchemy array Dao, his status in the host region would be equal to those Dao Palace Masters of Creation stage Almighties. If he joined the Pill Array Immortal Alliance as a God of Creation stage Alchemy Master and Array Dao Master, his status would be no different from Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher, the older generation Alchemy Masters and Array Dao Masters of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. As he thought of this, Zhuowen resolutely stepped onto the 12th level. His eyes were filled with determination, and the true alchemy array record in his hands also emitted a rich light. It seemed to be excited and anticipating the Pill Array Dao aura of the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. In the deepest part of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, there was an ordinary pavilion. The surface of this pavilion was filled with terrifying array restrictions. If a cultivator who understood Array Dao came near this pavilion, they would immediately be so shocked that they wouldn't dare to come close. This was because the array restrictions on the surface of this ordinary pavilion were even more terrifying than the ones around the Pill Array Pagoda. Once these restrictions were activated, they would form an extremely powerful death trap array that would exterminate all enemies who dared to invade this pavilion. At this moment, in a simple room inside the pavilion, a white-haired youth was sitting on a purple praying mat. The white-haired young man's body was surrounded by extremely abstruse restriction ripples, which were obscure and profound. Suddenly, the white-haired youth opened his eyes. Shock could be seen in the depths of his eyes. Someone actually made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Who exactly is it? The white-haired youth stood up abruptly. He didn't conceal the shock in his eyes. I have to go take a look. After saying this, the white-haired youth disappeared from the pavilion. At this moment, the surroundings of the Pill Array Pagoda were completely silent. Everyone was staring at the light that was still shining on the top floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. There was no discussion or clamor. They were all shocked speechless by what had happened on the Pill Array Pagoda. Everyone knew that ever since the Pill Array Pagoda had been established, no one had ever made it to the 12th level. Even the mysterious Pill Array Immortal Alliance's creation-grade alchemist hadn't done it. However, today the unknown Zhuowen had done it. Moreover, he was only a mystery-grade alchemist. This result made many people's jaws drop. They couldn't believe it. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were speechless. Their expressions were numb. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. The white-haired youth appeared behind the two of them. Alliance Master! When Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher saw the white-haired youth, they hurriedly cupped their hands and bowed. However, they were extremely shocked. The white-haired youth was the true ruler of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He was also the only creation-grade alchemist in the alliance. Normally, he wouldn't appear unless the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was in a life-and-death crisis. However, today, the white-haired youth had come out of seclusion for Zhuowen. Who's making it to the Pill Array Pagoda? The white-haired youth only nodded slightly at Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher. Then, he looked at the Pill Array Pagoda and asked. Huan Taiping hurriedly clasped his hands and recounted everything related to Zhuowen in full detail. He's actually not a member of our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He's just a rogue cultivator? The white-haired youth revealed an astonished expression. He clearly didn't expect that the person who made it to the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda was actually a nameless rogue cultivator. Invite this child to join our Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Let him become our 5th Immortal Master. His position will be the same as the two of you, the white-haired youth said calmly. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher were shocked. They didn't expect the white-haired youth to value Zhuowen so much. He actually directly gave Zhuowen the position of Immortal Master. In the huge Pill Array Immortal Alliance, There were only 4 immortal masters. Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe were 2 of them. Regardless of whether it was Huan Taiping or Fang Zishe, it took them countless years of hard work and contributions to finally become an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. In the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, it was impossible to become an immortal master just by relying on talent and potential. One also needed sufficient experience and prestige. However, the white-haired youth directly made Zhuan an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. This showed that he valued Zhuan greatly. Chapter 28-27. Bestowed to an immortal master on the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda, Zhuan's eyes shone as he looked at the true Pill Array record in front of him. He absorbed all of the Pill Array Dao aura around him, and the last 1/12th blank space of the true Pill Array record was filled with words. Zhuan couldn't wait any longer. He grabbed the true Pill Array record and started to study it as if he was drunk. The look of enlightenment in his eyes became more and more intense. When Zhuan put down the true Pill Array record, he couldn't help but sigh in admiration at the profound knowledge of the cultivator who created this record. The true Pill Array record was extremely profound. Zhuan knew that studying it once wasn't enough. He had to study it repeatedly in order to gain more and more. However, even though he had only roughly studied it once, his gains were unimaginable. What made Zhuan regretful was that his Alchemy Dao and Array Dao had both reached the pinnacle of the Eternal Grade. He originally thought that he could break through to the Genesis Grade after entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. However, now it seemed that he had overestimated himself. However, it wasn't that he didn't gain anything. At least, he had seen the trajectory of the Pill Array Dao and gained a lot of insights. Breaking through to the Genesis Grade was only a matter of time for him. It's time to go down. Zhuan put away the true Pill Array record. This was a very important thing, and he had to protect it well. Otherwise, it might attract the attention of others. When Zhuan walked down the Pill Array Pagoda, he found that the atmosphere around the plaza was unusually quiet. Many pairs of eyes were focused on him, making him feel slightly uncomfortable. Meanwhile, Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe hurried forward. Huan Taiping had a warm smile on his face as he said, "Congratulations, Zhuo Xiaoyu. You actually shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda." Fang Zishe also clasped his hands in greeting and said some words of praise. Zhuan was a little surprised. Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe were both Genesis Grade alchemists of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. They had high positions and authority. Although he had shocked the world by entering the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda, it wasn't enough for 2 Genesis Grade alchemists to treat him so warmly and politely. His gaze quickly noticed the white-haired youth behind Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe. The white-haired youth looked ordinary, but Zhuan felt an indescribable sense of oppression from the white-haired youth. Zhuan knew that this youth was definitely not simple. Moreover, from the positions Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe were standing in, it could be seen that these 2 were faintly following the white-haired youth's lead. Of him. You. Zhuan. Of. Little friend Zhua, this is the alliance leader of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Ji Wu Ming. He's also the only creation-grade pill master in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Huan Taiping hurriedly introduced, his eyes filled with reverence. He didn't expect this white-haired youth to be the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's alliance head. No wonder Huan Taiping and Fang Zishe were so respectful. Greetings. Zhuan cupped his fists. The white-haired youth was satisfied with Zhuan's performance. He nodded. He stared at Zhuan and said, "You passed the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. This shows that you have unlimited potential. In the future, you will be able to break through to the 3rd step of the Pill Array Grand Dao. You are the first cultivator in the history of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to pass the 12th floor of the Pill Array Pagoda. Now I, Ji Wuming, invite you to be the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Do you agree?" Zhuan was stunned. He didn't know what an Immortal Master was. Huan Taiping quickly explained to Zhuan what an Immortal Master was. At the same time, he mentioned that once Zhuan became an Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, He would be on the same level as Fang Zisher and him. Zhuan was shocked. He looked at Ji Wuming. He didn't expect Ji Wuming to give him such a high position. It seemed like Ji Wuming valued him a lot. Zhuan only wanted to become an elder of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. He wanted to use the Pil Array Immortal Alliance to restrain that old geezer Yin Wuxia. Now that he was an immortal master, he had a much higher status than an elder of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Yin Wuxia would have to hold back before he could deal with him. Many thanks for Alliance Head Ji's kindness. But after I become an immortal master, will there be restrictions on my freedom? Zhuan asked hesitantly. Zhu Xiaoyu, don't worry. An immortal master is the most respected Pil Array Grandmaster of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. There won't be any restrictions in the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. However, when the Pil Array Immortal Alliance is in danger, as an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, you must protect the Pil Array Immortal Alliance with your life, Huan Taiping said with a smile. Hearing this, Zhuowen agreed without hesitation. The white-haired young man, Ji Wuming, smiled when he saw that Zhuowen had agreed. Immortal Master Zhuo, I see that your Pil Dao and Array Dao have just broken through to the peak of the eternal grade. You shouldn't have stabilized your realm yet. Go and stabilize it now. 3 days later, I will personally confer you the position of Immortal Master and announce it to the world. Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen meaningfully and smiled. Zhuowen's heart trembled. Ji Wuming really had good eyesight. He cupped his hands and left. This kid's Pil Dao has already broken through to the eternal grade. It seems that our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a great chance of entering the Pil Array Dao Domains qualifiers. Huan Taiping and Fang Zisher didn't see that Zhuowen's Pil Array Dao had reached the eternal grade. Now that Ji Wuming mentioned it, their eyes lit up with excitement. In the following period of time, the rumor that Zhuowen had passed the 12th floor of the Pil Array Pagoda spread throughout the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Everyone knew that the profound grade Pil Master Zhuowen, who had won first place in the Pil Array Grand Assembly, had actually accomplished such a feat after entering the Pil Array Pagoda. Even the Pil Array Immortal Alliance's Alliance Master, Ji Wuming, hadn't been able to pass the 12th floor of the Pil Array Pagoda. However, Zhuowen had passed it. Didn't this mean that Zhuowen's talent was even more terrifying than Ji Wuming's? At the same time, many cultivators realized that this Pil Master called Zhuowen was really going to soar. The Pil Array Immortal Alliance definitely wouldn't let go of such a powerful genius. They would definitely invite him to join the Pil Array Immortal Alliance and give him an extremely high status. Many people guessed that if Zhuowen were to join the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, he would immediately become an elder-level figure in the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. However, the next explosive news shocked everyone. Zhuowen had indeed joined the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Moreover, the person who had invited him was the Alliance Master, Ji Wuming. Moreover, he had directly made Zhuowen the 5th Immortal Master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. This news not only shocked the entire Pil Array Immortal Alliance, but when it spread to the other regions of the host region, most of the forces in the host region were shocked. They didn't know who this Zhuowen was. However, when they heard that this kid had only been a rogue cultivator before joining the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, they were all shocked and began to inquire about this Zhuowen. Chapter 28-28 6 Desires Spirit Condensing St. Pil. Within the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, there was a deep cave filled with Yin Qi. Numerous ghastly coffins stood in a forest. Dense Yin Qi surged up as if it was material. Even a cultivator at the second step of the Dao validation realm would probably have to retreat in such a terrifying environment filled with Yin Qi. In the depths of the cave filled with Yin Qi, a figure was faintly discernible like a ghost. It was a man. The strange thing was that there was a golden vertical mark between the man's brows. It emitted a blazing golden light and seemed out of place in the gloomy surroundings. What? It's that Zhuowen again? That bastard actually became the 5th Immortal Master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Damn it. The man with the golden vertical mark between his brows threw the communication jade talisman in his hand to the ground. His eyes were ferocious as he revealed his handsome face. If Zhuowen was here, he would definitely recognize that this person was Sakyamune, who had a deep enmity with him in the past. Ever since Zhuan became an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, his name had spread throughout the entire host region. Although many forces didn't know what Zhuan looked like, Zhuan's name was already well known. Sakyumune's status in the Ten Extremities In Corps sect wasn't low, so he naturally had heard of Zhuan's deeds. I should have completely annihilated this kid when we were on Heavenly Armor Planet. Now, he has become so powerful. Sakyumune's eyes flickered. He felt that this matter was a little difficult to deal with. His cultivation had advanced by leaps and bounds during these years in the Ten Extremities In Corps sect, and he had already broken through to the second step of the Tao validation realm. He was now an expert under the Lord of Profundity. Moreover, Sakyamune had a heaven-grade Tao root, so his status in the Ten Extremities In Corps sect was extremely high. Even the leader of the group, In Wuxia, who was heading to the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, had a lower status in the sect than Sakyamune. Sakyamune was very young, and his talent was extremely high. His future was limitless, and he was loved and valued by the sect leader of the Ten Extreme In Corps sect. There were many elders in the Ten Extremities In Corps sect who wanted to befriend Sakyamune, and In Wuxia was one of them. I have to get rid of this Zhuan. I have to send a message to Elder In Wuxia. The killing intent in Sakyamune's eyes was boiling. He couldn't leave now and was in a state of continuous breakthrough. Moreover, he could feel that his Tao root was about to evolve again. This period of time was the most crucial moment for him, and he absolutely could not leave. Although Sakyamune wanted to kill Zhuan with his own hands, he knew that he did not have the opportunity to do so. Within the Pil Array Immortal Alliance's Pil Array Immortal City, In Wuxia sat in his room with an ugly expression. After hearing that Zhuan had been promoted to an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance, he knew that he no longer had the qualifications to act against Zhuan. If he acted, he would completely anger the people of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. An immortal master's position in the Pil Array Immortal Alliance was too important. Their position was not inferior to the vice sect leader of the Ten Extremities In Corps sect. If he acted, his fate would be very miserable. In Wuxia quickly realized that the communication jade at his waist had lit up. He frowned but still took it out. After a while, he muttered to himself, Sakyamune also has a grudge against Zhuan? He actually asked me to kill Zhuan. However, In Wuxia quickly shook his head. Zhuan's current status was different from before, and he did not have the qualifications to act. If he acted, he would bring disaster to himself. He could not help Sakyamune with this request. Just as In Wuxia was about to reject, someone knocked on his door. He opened the door and saw a man and a woman standing outside. Thunder God Park's Lei Zixuan and Huangji family's senior Huang Wu are here to greet Senior In. Lei Zixuan was wearing a red dress. She had a sweet smile on her face as she bowed to In Wuxia. In Wuxia looked at Lei Zixuan indifferently and nodded to Huang Wu, who was beside her. Lei Zixuan was just a junior of the Master of Destiny, so he did not care about her. However, Huang Wu was the leader of the Huangji family and was also a creator. In Wuxia paid more attention to him. Why are the two of you looking for me? In Wuxia stood at the door, not intending to let the two of them in, as she asked in a neutral tone. Lei Zixuan did not mind In Wuxia's disregard. After all, the latter came from a Tao palace and was also a creator. It was normal for him to ignore her. Actually, it's like this. We want to discuss the matter of Zhuan with Elder In. If I remember correctly, there should be quite a bit of conflict between Elder In and Zhuan, right? Lei Zixuan said with a sweet smile. I'm afraid you found the wrong person. That Zhuan is now an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. He's not someone I, In Wuxia, can afford to offend. If you're here for this matter, you can go back now, In Wuxia said coldly. Huang Wu suddenly cupped his fists and said, Elder In, we have a way to force that Zhuan out and kill him without anyone knowing. As long as Elder In cooperates with us, we have an 80% chance of success. In Wuxia was taken aback, but her interest was piqued. She nodded and gestured for the two of them to enter, saying, Please come in. If your method is reliable, it's not like I can't cooperate with you. While In Wuxia and the others were plotting, Zhuan was in the room, refining pills. Waves of medicinal fragrance filled the room, making it look like a paradise. Bang! Suddenly, there was a soft sound, and a cloud of black smoke rushed out of the pill furnace. The black smoke turned into a fierce tiger and charged toward Jun. Its roar shook the sky. Zhuowen retreated abruptly. He clenched his right fist and punched at the tiger. The power of the Pangu's sacred body burst out and directly dispersed the tiger formed by the black smoke. Zhuowen sighed lightly. He knew that he had failed to refine this cauldron of pills. This was the third time he had refined a batch of Genesis-level divine pills, but he still failed in the end. One had to realize that the ingredients for each Genesis divine pill were extremely precious. Zhuowen only had 5 Genesis divine pills on him. Now that he had used up 3 of them, as well as the other supplementary ingredients, this was a huge loss. Zhuowen poured out the medicinal dregs from the cauldron. He didn't plan to continue refining divine pills. He knew that he was already very close to reaching the God of Creation stage. All he needed was a final opportunity. If he continued to refine divine pills now, he would only end up wasting the 2 remaining God of Creation stage divine pills that he had. Zhuowen flipped open the True Alchemy Array record, and his eyes fell on the last page of the record. His expression was extremely serious. After the True Alchemy Array record was completed, the last page of the record was about recovering the 6 soul desires. It was said that in order to recover the 6 soul desires of a cultivator, one needed a divine pill called the 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Saint Pill. Chapter 28-29. Qualification round the heaven-piercing Great Elixir was above the creation Great Elixir. To refine a heaven-piercing Great Elixir, one had to be a heaven-piercing Great Elixir master. However, in the entire host region, Ji Wuming was the only creation Great Elixir master, let alone a heaven-piercing Great Elixir master. Even Ji Wuming was not qualified to refine the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir. What made him even more helpless was that the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir's main ingredients were 6 different heaven-piercing Great Elixirs. These 6 heaven-piercing Great Elixirs were the 1,000-Year Flowerless Eyes, Red Pill, Exquisite Phoenix Leaf, Buddha Yellow Water Bamboo, 3 Realms Flower Chinyu, and Scarlet Moon Star Ripple Milk. Zhuowen had never heard of any of these 6 heaven-piercing Great Elixirs before. Zhuowen knew that it was impossible for him to refine the 6 Desires Spirit Congealing Elixir. Even Ji Wuming couldn't do it. The only thing he could do now was to give the Moyan of Wushang to Ji Wuming and see if he had any other methods to restore the 6 desires in a cultivator's soul. After leaving the room, Zhuowen walked straight to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's main building. Immortal Master Zhuo. When Zhuowen entered the main building, the guards at the entrance lowered their heads in respect. They were extremely respectful to Zhuowen. Zhuowen was now the 5th Immortal Master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. His status was equal to Huan Taiping and the others. All the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's Pill Array Immortal Alliance respected him like a god. Brother Zhuo, what a rare guest. You've been an Immortal Master for so many days. This is your first time here, right? An old man with white hair and a beard walked over. When he saw Zhuowen, he immediately greeted him warmly. Elder Fong, I'm here to look for Alliance Master Ji. I wonder if he's in the main building. Zhuowen cupped his hands. This old man was Fong Zisher, who had appeared outside the Pill Array Pagoda with Huan Taiping. That's great. I'm also looking for the Alliance leader. Come with me. Today, even if you didn't come, I'm afraid that old fellow Huan Taiping would have gone to call you. Now that you've come, that's just right. It saves that old fellow Huan Taiping from running errands. Fong Zisher laughed. Zhuowen, on the other hand, was flabbergasted. He revealed a puzzled expression and asked, Why did the Alliance leader summon us? This matter has something to do with you. It's about participating in the Alchemy Array Dao Domain Qualification Competition. You'll know when you get there. Fong Zisher blinked his eyes and spoke in a somewhat disrespectful manner. Zhuowen, you're already here. That's great, I don't have to go and call you. A voice filled with vicissitudes of life came from behind. Zhuowen and Fong Zisher saw Huan Taiping jogging over and catching up to the two of them. Grandmaster Huan. Zhuowen smiled and cupped his hands. No need to be so courteous. You are also an immortal master. Our statuses are equal. You can just call me Brother Huan. Huan Taiping waved his hand. Zhuan smiled faintly and didn't fuss over the way he addressed Huan Taiping. The three of them chatted and laughed as they walked into the depths of the main building. This was a very large hall. There were only 6 seats in this hall, and each seat was extremely luxurious. At this moment, Ji Wuming was sitting in the main seat. The other 2 seats were also occupied by 2 wide-robed old men. Zhuan knew that these 2 wide-robed old men should be the other 2 immortal masters of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. The 3 of you are here? Sit down. Ji Wuming pointed at the other 3 empty seats and said. Zhuan and the other 2 sat down. Huan Taiping sat beside him and quietly introduced the other 2 immortal masters to Zhuan. Among the 2 immortal masters, one of them was an old man with a brandy nose called Jiang Kong. The other old man with sharp eyes was called Shao Yi. According to Huan Taiping's introduction, these 2 immortal masters weren't alchemy masters, but divine array masters. Moreover, they were Genesis stage divine array masters. It seemed that in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, Genesis stage alchemy masters and divine array masters were equally divided. While Zhuan was sizing up the 2 immortal masters, Jiang Kong and Shao Yi were also sizing up Zhuan. This time, I called you here mainly to tell you about the qualifiers for the Pill Array Dao domain. I'm afraid that all of this will depend on Immortal Master Zhuan. Ji Wuming's gaze fell on Zhuan and he said with a smile. Qualifiers. Zhuan's face was blank. Immortal Master Zhua, we wanted to tell you about this before the qualifiers, but you were always in seclusion refining pills, so we didn't have the chance. Actually, it's like this. Huan Taiping sat by Zhua Wen's side and very dutifully told him about the qualifiers. After listening, Zhuan revealed a look of understanding. It turned out that the Pill Array Immortal Alliance originated from the Pill Array Dao domain. In the Xianmi Heavenly Domain's East, West, South, and North Dao domains, there were corresponding Pill Array Dao domain branches. Among them, Zhuowen's Pill Array Immortal Alliance was called the Eastern Immortal Alliance. It was mainly open and recruited alchemy array masters from the host domain. The other 3 Dao domains also had corresponding Pill Array Immortal Alliances. They were the Western Immortal Alliance, the Northern Immortal Alliance, and the Southern Immortal Alliance. The 4 divisions would hold a qualifier every 10,000 years to select outstanding alchemy array masters from the 4 divisions to enter the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years. It was said that alchemy array masters who could cultivate in the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years could break through to the 3rd step of the alchemy Dao domain after coming out of seclusion. When the Pill Array Immortal Alliance's alliance master, Ji Wuming, was still an eternal stage alchemy master, he participated in the qualifiers and stood out, entering the Pill Array Dao domain for 100 years. After coming out of seclusion, Ji Wuming was already a peak Genesis stage alchemy master. After returning to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance for 1,000 years, he broke through again and became a creation stage alchemy master, becoming the alliance master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. It could be said that this qualifier, which was held once every 10,000 years, was a huge opportunity for the 4 divisions. It was a grand event that was highly valued. Immortal Master Zhua, the condition to participate in the qualifier is that you must be younger than 10,000 years old. I've seen your bone age. You're very young and definitely not older than 10,000 years old. Moreover, you've passed the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. You're the best candidate for this qualifier. Ji Wuming smiled at Zhuan. He thought highly of Zhuan. Not to mention that Zhuan had passed the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda. Just the fact that Zhuan was younger than 10,000 years old and could cultivate both Alchemy Dao and Array Dao to the eternal stage already surpassed most of the Alchemy Array masters in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Ji Wuming felt that Zhuan had a high chance of standing out in this qualifier and entering the Pill Array Dao domain. Alliance Master Ji, does the Pill Array Dao domain have any transcending heaven alchemy masters? Zhuan didn't immediately agree. Instead, he asked the question in his heart with an expectant look in his eyes. Ji Wuming looked proud and smiled faintly. The Pill Array Dao domain is the origin of the Pill Array Dao in the Xianmi Heavenly Domain. Naturally, there are transcending heaven alchemy masters, but there are very few of them. I only know of one. As for whether there are more, I'm not too sure. Okay, then I'll participate in this qualifier, Zhuan said firmly. Seeing that Zhuan had agreed, Ji Wuming and the others smiled. With Immortal Master Zhuo's help, our Eastern Immortal Alliance has a better chance of winning the qualifier. Immortal Master Zhuo must remember that there are only about 200 years until the qualifier begins. I hope Immortal Master Zhuo can cultivate Alchemy Dao during this time. Zhuowen nodded, indicating that he understood. Then he took a deep breath and cupped his fists. Alliance Master Ji, I have a request. I hope Alliance Master Ji can agree to it. Chapter 2830. 8 Scenery Soul Concentrating Divine Pilzhua clasped his fist again. Caution appeared in his eyes as he took out a translucent crystal coffin from his large world. A beautiful woman lay quietly in the crystal coffin. She looked like a sleeping beauty with a unique temperament. Master Zhuo, what are you? Huan Taiping was the first to speak. He looked at the crystal coffin and asked. Fang Zisher and the other 3 Master Immortals were also surprised. Obviously, they didn't understand why Zhuowen took out a crystal coffin. Ji Wuming, on the other hand, looked serious when he saw Zhuowen take out the crystal coffin. Ji Wuming landed next to the crystal coffin and stared at the beautiful woman in the coffin. He frowned and said, "What a cruel method. The 6 desires in this woman's soul have been stripped away. And if I'm not wrong, the 6 desires in her body were also stripped away, but they have been artificially restored." Ji Wuming looked at Zhuowen and asked for Zhuowen's opinion. Her name is Moyan Wushang, and she's my confidant. Zhuowen looked at the beautiful woman sleeping in the crystal coffin. His eyes were full of gentleness. He told her about how Moyan Wushang lost his 6 desires and how his soul almost dissipated. After everyone present heard this, they were all moved. Moyan Wushang's fate was indeed very rough. Moyan Wushang became like this because of Zhuowen, so Zhuowen owed Moyan Wushang a huge debt of gratitude. I have to say that the person who performed the technique was very vicious. They controlled the 6 desires of this woman in the palm of their hand. Her life and death were all in their hands. It's not difficult to restore the 6 desires of this woman's body. You've already done it. However, this matter involves the level of the soul. It's extremely tricky. Ji Wuming shook his head and gave Zhuowen a helpless look. Alliance Master Ji, you are the only creation-grade alchemist in the host region. Could it be that even you are helpless? Zhuowen was disheartened. Ji Wuming shook his head in shame. The loss of the 6 desires was a very tricky problem. If he was careless, Moyan Wushang's spirit would be completely destroyed, and there would be no room for recovery. Ji Wuming could try to save Moyan of Wushang, but he had less than a 10% chance of success. If he failed, Moyan of Wushang's soul would scatter. There was only one chance, so Ji Wuming didn't dare to take the risk. But I can help you stabilize her divine soul. Due to the lack of the 6 desires, her divine soul seems to have lost its 6 pillars. Her divine soul is unstable and may collapse at any time. Ji Wuming continued. Zhuowen sighed and cupped his hands at Ji Wuming. Thank you, Leader Ji. Zhuowen knew that Ji Wuming was willing to help him for free because of him. Of course, Zhuowen wasn't an ungrateful person. At the same time, he also knew that if a creation-grade alchemist like Ji Wuming couldn't restore Moyan of Wushang's 6 desires, then perhaps only a heaven-grade alchemist could do it. Of course, if he could refine the 6 desires spirit-condensing pill, he could also completely save Moyan of Wushang. But whether it was a heaven-grade alchemist or a 6 desires spirit-condensing pill, they were too far away for him. Ji Wuming waved his hand, indicating that Zhuowen didn't have to be so polite. Then he opened the crystal coffin and pointed his right hand at Moyan of Wushang's forehead. Ji Wuming pinched his index and middle fingers together and spewed out a 5-colored flame. This flame was extremely strange. It seemed to have a terrifying temperature, but it didn't cause any burns on Moyan of Wushang's forehead. In the hall, Zhuowen and the other 4 immortal masters didn't speak. They just looked at Ji Wuming quietly. About half an hour later, Ji Wuming retracted his right hand and closed the coffin lid again. He looked at Zhuowen with a dignified expression. This lady's soul has already begun to crumble, and it's extremely severe. I can only suppress the crumbling of her soul, But if I want to completely stabilize this lady's soul, I'll need to refine the 8 scenery soul condensing divine pill. Ji Wuming paused and looked at Zhuo Wen. The 8 sceneries soul condensing divine pill is a fortune-grade divine pill. I have most of the ingredients, but I'm still missing the main ingredient, the elusive realm underworld soul flower. You need to help me find the elusive realm flower. The elusive realm flower is a creation-grade divine pill. Even the Divine Medicine Valley doesn't have it. I'm afraid it's not easy to find. Huan Taiping's expression changed slightly. Ji Wuming suddenly said, I remember that the elusive realm flower once appeared in the Nether Hell of the 10 Extreme Corpse sect. Zhuowen, wait a moment. I'll contact the sect master of the 10 Extreme Corpse sect and see if he can hand over the elusive realm flower. Ji Wuming took out a communication jade talisman and contacted the sect master of the 10 Extreme Corpse sect. But soon, Ji Wuming's expression turned ugly. Alliance Master, what's wrong? Huan Taiping asked. Ji Qingyin has been evading my request. He won't give me the elusive realm flower. Even if I offer him a creation-grade divine pill, he won't agree, Ji Wuming said helplessly. The realm-fleeing underworld soul flower is very beneficial to Ji Qingyin's cultivation. Once the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower appears in the underworld hell, Ji Qingyin will immediately take it away. It is not likely that he will hand over the realm-fleeing underworld soul flower. Fang Zisher sighed. Then I'll go to the Nether Hell. Since he won't exchange with the Alliance Master, he'll at least give me face and let the cultivators of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance enter the Nether Hell, right? Zhuowen said in a deep voice. If it's just a spot to enter the Nether Hell, that old monster Ji Qingyin will indeed agree. Ji Wuming nodded, but continued worriedly. The Umbra Hell is the training ground of the Corpse sect of the 10 Extremes. It is also a famous killing ground in the host territory. If you go in there, you will either kill or be killed. Who knows how many cultivators have died in there? Ji Wuming didn't finish his words, but his meaning was obvious. Zhuan wasn't strong enough, so entering the Nether Hell was courting death. Alliance Master Ji, don't worry. I have the ability to protect myself. You said that the elusive realm flower can only be produced in the Nether Hell. Moreover, Wushang's divine soul is very unstable now. If it's too late, I may regret it for the rest of my life. Zhuan was very calm. He looked at Ji Wuming with a firm gaze. Ji Wuming frowned. Zhuan was the main force participating in the Pill Array Dao Domain qualification competition. Although there was still some time before the start of the qualification competition, he didn't want Zhuowen to have an accident during this period. However, Zhuowen's tone was firm and unyielding. Ji Wuming also knew that if he tried to persuade him, it would be futile. Chapter 2831. Universe Explosion Array. Since you have already made up your mind, I won't say anything more. I will ask Ji Qingyin for a slot to enter the Umbra Hell for you, but you must be careful. Ji Wuming took out a set of array flags from his spirit ring and handed it to Zhun. This is the Universe Explosion Array, a Genesis grade array. It can help you escape from a life and death crisis. Zhuowen accepted the Universe Explosion Array, but he didn't care too much about it. He had the Ho-E Godly Bow and Ho-E Godly Arrow, which were much more terrifying than the Universe Explosion Array. As long as it wasn't a terrifying expert like the Master of Creation, Zhuan wouldn't be afraid. In the end, Zhuan left Mo and Wushang here under Ji Wuming's request. While he left, Ji Wuming promised that he would help Zhuowen get a slot to enter the Umbra Hell within a few days. Zhuan only needed to wait patiently. Before leaving, Zhuan urged Huan Taiping to leave with him. He needed to ask Huan Taiping where the most skilled blacksmith was in Pill Array Immortal City. Immortal Master Zhua, you want to find a blacksmith? Could it be that you want to forge some kind of divine tool? Huan Taiping was puzzled. The Umbra Hell is filled with unknown dangers, so I naturally need to be well prepared, Zhuan said. Huan Taiping nodded and enthusiastically brought Zhuan to a shop called Myriad Weapons Workshop. But what made Zhuan speechless was that there was only an old man in the shop. There wasn't even an assistant. At this moment, the old man was sitting on a wooden armchair at the entrance, crossing his legs and humming a tune. He was very idle. When he saw Zhuan and Huan Taiping enter, He only gave them a sidelong glance and was too lazy to bother with them. This is the most skilled blacksmith in Pil Array Immortal City? Yuan was speechless. Huan Taiping was somewhat embarrassed as he said, although the shops of the 10,000 Weapons Lane are a bit sloppy, Master Yuan's superb skills are unparalleled even in the host region. As he said that, Huan Taiping smiled and walked in front of the disheveled old man. Master Yuan, this is a newly promoted immortal master of our Pil Array Immortal Alliance. He wants to find you to forge a divine weapon. See if you can help. Yuan found it very strange. Huan Taiping was after all an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Now, he was actually so accommodating towards the disheveled old man. This Master Yuan's identity was probably not simple. Oh, so the little demon who passed the 12th floor of the Pil Array Pagoda was him. Interesting. Since it's Yun, I'll forge a divine artifact for you for free. Master Yuan suddenly became spirited. He looked at Zhuan from head to toe as if he was looking at a rare treasure. Zhuan felt goosebumps all over his body as Master Yuan looked at him. He was somewhat puzzled. Why did this old man suddenly become spirited when he heard that it was him? That Ji Wuming only passed the 11th floor of the Pil Array Pagoda, but you surpassed him. This makes this old man feel very relieved. I finally got to see that Ji Wuming suffer. What divine weapon do you want? Just tell me. As long as it's made by me, Yuan Jianyi, it won't be an ordinary item. Master Yuan laughed loudly. Zhuan felt relieved. It seemed like this disheveled old man had suffered a loss at the hands of Ji Wuming before. Thus, he held a grudge against Ji Wuming. I need you to forge a batch of arrows for me. They have to be at least of the Genesis tier, Zhuan said. The reason he needed arrows was naturally to prepare for the Ho-E Divine Bow. Although the Ho-E Divine Bow and the Ho-E Divine Arrow were powerful, the killing intent of the two was too terrifying. Even he would be seriously injured every time he used it. If he used ordinary arrows, he would be able to withstand the one-sided killing intent of the Ho-E Divine Bow. Moreover, the arrows shot out would be extremely powerful. Although they couldn't be compared to the Ho-E Divine Arrow, it wouldn't be a problem for him to fight against a Genesis tier expert. More importantly, the Ho-E Divine Arrow was too extraordinary and ostentatious. Others could tell that it was extraordinary with a single glance. The Ho-E Divine Bow, on the other hand, looked like an ordinary wooden bow. Only when the bow was drawn would it show its extraordinary power. Normally, it wouldn't attract the attention of others. Master Yuan agreed straightforwardly and told him to come back 3 days later. After that, he hurriedly drove Zhuan and Huan Taiping out. Immortal Master Zhua, don't mind him. Master Yuan has always been like this. Huan Taiping smiled awkwardly. Zhuan didn't mind. As long as the arrows forged by Master Yuan were of high quality, it didn't matter whether Master Yuan's attitude was good or bad. 3 days later, Ji Wuming sent him a message. He had already secured a place for him to enter the Een Nether Hell. As long as he went to the 10 Extremes Een Corpse sect, he would be able to enter the Een Nether Hell directly. During these 3 days, Zhuan had asked Ji Wuming about the 1,000-year flowerless eyes, red cloud blue sun red, blazing phoenix exquisite leaf, Buddha yellow water bamboo, 3 realms flower chinyu, and crimson moon star ripple milk. What surprised Zhuan was that Ji Wuming had only heard of 3 of these divine medicines. As for the other 3, he hadn't even heard of them. Zhuan also knew that the heavenly divine medicines were extremely rare in the host region. Even the Pil Array Immortal Alliance didn't have any divine medicines of this level. Ji Wuming suggested that the heavenly divine medicines could only be found in the Pil Array Dao domain. The host region might have them, but they definitely grew in extremely secretive and dangerous places. Zhuan sighed in his heart. He knew that it was impossible for him to find the 6 divine medicines of the 6 Desires Spirit Condensing Saint Pil unless he was lucky or entered the Pil Array Dao domain. At the same time, Yuan Jianyi's forging was also completed. He sent someone to personally deliver it to Zhuan's residence. The quota and arrow forging for the Een Nether Hell had been completed, but Zhuan didn't immediately go to the 10 Extremes Een Corpse sect. After instructing Fire Plume and the others to stay in the Pil Array Immortal City, he went to the inn where Xia Qinfan and the others were staying. Big brother Zhuan, why are you here? Xia Qinfan looked at Zhuan in surprise. Zhuan smiled and said, Miss Xia, I heard that your father was injured hundreds of years ago and went into seclusion. I've already advanced to the eternal grade. Maybe I can go to the Tai Sui sword sect to take a look at your father. Xia Qinfan was startled. She immediately lowered her head and thanked Zhuan. She was a smart woman. She knew that Zhuan's real purpose was to help her. The current situation of the Tai Sui sword sect was very unclear. Zhang Qingshuan's faction controlled almost 80% of the Tai Sui sword sect's forces. This time, Xia Qinfan's faction had chosen the right alchemist and made a big splash in the Pil Dao Domain Grand Assembly. They had also obtained 10 quotas to enter the Divine Medicine Valley. Once Xia Qinfan and the others returned to the Tai Sui sword sect, what greeted them wasn't cheers from the sect. Instead, they were suppressed and made things difficult for by Zhang Qingshuan's faction. Chapter 28-32. Zhang Qingshuan waved his hand, indicating that Xia Qinfan didn't need to thank him. At this moment, Xia Qinfan's door was knocked at an untimely moment. Moreover, the knocking was very urgent, as if it was a ghost. Xia Qinfan, senior brother Zhan has sent a message urging you to return to the Tai Sui sword faction within a few days. Otherwise, senior brother Zhan will personally come to interrogate you. An extremely arrogant and impatient voice came from outside the door. Zhuan opened the door and saw that the person knocking on the door was Jiang Mo, whom he had sent flying with a slap. Zhuan narrowed his eyes, and a hint of coldness flashed in them. You're finally willing to open the door. Xia Qinfan, you don't live up to your title as the daughter of the sect leader. The Tai Sui sword faction is now under senior brother Zhan's control. If you don't listen, then just wait. When Jiang Mo saw the door open, the arrogance on his face became even stronger. He did not even see the person who opened the door, but he was shouting arrogantly. However, when Jiang Mo saw the face of the person who opened the door, he looked as if he had seen a ghost. He was rooted to the spot, and his neck unconsciously stretched out, like a rooster being lifted by the neck. Immortal. Immortal Master Zhua? Jiang Mo covered his right cheek and hurriedly backed away, revealing a smile that was uglier than crying. He would never forget the slap that Zhuan gave him a few days ago. That slap had caused his right cheek to swell up, and all his teeth on the right side had been shattered. Jiang Mo would never forget that heart-wrenching pain. You're too noisy. Zhuan's eyes were indifferent. He grabbed Jiang Mo and slapped him on his left cheek. The tragic Jiang Mo screamed. His originally intact left cheek was completely swollen, and his right cheek was swollen, making him look like a pig's head. Jiang Mo, on the other hand, was sprawled on the ground, unconscious. Miss Xia, it seems that your situation in the Tai Sui sword faction is not good. Zhuan looked at Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan smiled bitterly and said, Zhang Chengxian was my father's last disciple and was deeply loved by my father. My father even taught him a lot of divine abilities. However, I didn't expect that after my father was seriously injured and on the verge of death, Zhang Chengxian would be so ungrateful that he wanted to kill me and take the position of sect master. Big brother Zhua, I know that you are very powerful, but even if the Tai Sui sword sect has declined, it is still a Dao Palace level force. If you follow me back to the Tai Sui sword sect, you will probably suffer. Zhuan said, Lady Xia, don't worry. I'm now an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Even if I follow you back to the Tai Sui sword sect, Zhang Chengxian won't dare to do anything to me. If he dares to touch me, his life will come to an end. Xia Qinfan went silent. Bowen was right. Zhuan's status was no longer the same as before. He was an immortal master of the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Anyone who dared to touch Zhuan would be going against the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. The next day, Zhuan bid farewell to Ji Wuming, Huan Taiping, and the others. He followed Xia Qinfan and left the Pil Array Immortal Alliance. Zhuan sat in a luxurious cabin, looking down at the trembling Jiang Mo who was kneeling on the ground. Tell me about Zhang Qingshuan's cultivation and the current situation of the Tai Sui sword sect, Zhuan said indifferently. Zhuan didn't directly take Jiang Mo's life. Instead, he kept him alive to obtain more information about the Tai Sui sword sect. From Jiang Mo, Ton learned that Zhang Chengxian was indeed a genius. It was said that he had cultivated for less than 2,000 years and was already a half-step Genesis overlord. His strength was terrifying, and he had once escaped from an early-stage Genesis overlord. Apart from Zhang Chengxian, the Tai Sui sword sect didn't have any other half-step Genesis overlords. They only had 7 or 8 eternal overlords. It could be said that the Tai Sui sword sect's current strength was only slightly stronger than some Dao sections. Any Dao Palace sect could easily crush the Tai Sui sword sect. Ever since Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body had advanced to 5 stars, he didn't even put a late-stage Genesis overlord like Yin Wuxia in his eyes. As for the Lightning God Park and the Huangji family, who had previously caused him to be in a sorry state, they were nothing in his eyes. A mere Tai Sui sword sect was truly insignificant in Zhuowen's eyes. This time, he wanted Xia Qinfan to become the new sect master of the Tai Sui sword sect. If Zhang Chengxian objected, it would give Zhuowen a reason to make a move. The Tai Sui sword sect was built in a huge valley. This valley was enshrouded in a thin layer of white mist, and it looked like a paradise. When Xia Qinfan, Zhuowen, and the others arrived at the mountain gate, a handsome young man in white was already waiting for them. A refined smile hung on the corner of the white-clothed youth's mouth. He said to Xia Qinfan, "Junior sister Qinfan, you've come back really late. I remember that the pill tempering conference ended a long time ago. Why have you only come back now?" "Senior brother Jean, you don't have to worry about this. I felt comfortable staying in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, so I stayed a little longer. Can't I?" Xia Qinfan said bluntly. Zhang Chengxian smiled slightly. He didn't even look at Zhuowen. After all, Zhuowen's aura was too weak. He was only Lord Chaos Yuan. In his eyes, this person was probably just a servant. However, when Zhang Chengxian saw Jiang Mo, who had been beaten to a pulp, his expression instantly turned ugly. "What's going on? Jiang Mo, how did you end up like this?" Zhang Chengxian stared at Jiang Mo, his voice filled with monstrous anger. Jiang Mo secretly glanced at Zhuowen and lowered his head. He didn't dare to speak in front of Zhuowen. Ever since Zhuowen had slapped him twice, Jiang Mo had become much more obedient. He didn't dare to disobey Zhuowen in the slightest. Even before he spoke, he would subconsciously glance at Zhuowen to ask for his opinion. Zhang Chengxian also noticed Jiang Mo's gaze, but he still didn't pay much attention to Zhuowen. In his opinion, what could a mere Lord Chaos Yuan do? "Junior sister Xia, Jiang Mo is the leader of this team that I appointed. Now that he's in this state, aren't you also responsible?" Zhang Chengxian said unhappily as he shifted his attention to Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan frowned slightly and said, "Jiang Mo offended someone he shouldn't have. It has nothing to do with us. If you don't believe me, you can ask Jiang Mo." Sure enough, when Zhang Chengxuan's gaze landed on Jiang Mo again, he saw that the latter was smiling and nodding repeatedly. Although Zhang Chengxian found that there were many suspicious points, he didn't take it to heart. The reason he had personally come out to greet them was mainly because of the divine herbs that Xia Qinfan had obtained from the Divine Medicine Valley. Previously, Jiang Mo had sent him a message saying that Xia Qinfan was extremely lucky. She had unintentionally invited a powerful alchemist and obtained first place in the pill pageant. Moreover, that alchemist was extremely generous and gave Xia Qinfan 10 spots. According to the rules of the Divine Medicine Valley, every cultivator that entered the Divine Medicine Valley had a chance to obtain 5 divine herbs. 10 spots meant 50 divine herbs, and all of them were second-step Dao validation divine herbs. These 50 divine herbs were a huge fortune to Zhang Chengxian and the Tai Sui sword sect. Since it has nothing to do with junior sister Xia, then I won't pursue the matter. Junior sister, you've worked hard this time. Give all the divine herbs you obtained to me for safekeeping. It's not safe to leave so many divine herbs with you. Chapter 28-33. Sword Tower. Xia Qinfan looked at Zhang Chengxian and said in a low voice, "Senior brother Zhang, according to the sect rules, the divine herbs I obtained must be handed over to the sect leader for safekeeping. Senior brother Zhang isn't the sect leader yet, right?" Zhang Qingshuan's face stiffened, and a cold glint flashed in his eyes. He said coldly, "Before Master went into seclusion, he asked me to manage the Taisui sword sect. Therefore, I am now the acting sect leader. It is reasonable for me to safe-keep the divine herbs." Xia Qinfan handed a spirit ring to Zhang Qingxian, who took it happily. After checking it, his eyes turned gloomy. "Only 10 divine herbs?" Zhang Qingxian said coldly. "Senior brother Zhang, you are only the acting sect leader. You don't have such great authority. I want to hand the remaining divine herbs to my father personally. You said that my father went into seclusion to heal, but it has been so long, and there is no news. I must see him." Xia Qinfan said coldly. Zhang Chengxian frowned, and killing intent flashed in his eyes. He said indifferently, "Junior sister Xia, do you not trust me?" "I don't dare. Junior sister has not seen my father in a long time, so I want to see him." Xia Qinfan did not back down. At that moment, the supreme elder standing beside Xia Qinfan spoke up, "Chengxian, since Qinfan wants to see the sect master, just let her see him. After all, Qinfan is the sect master's daughter. It's only right for a daughter to see her father." Zhang Qingshuan's eyes flickered, and he nodded. "Since the Grand Elder has spoken, I can't refuse. Junior sister Qinfan and Grand Elder, follow me. I will follow too." Zhuan stood out and said indifferently, "Who do you think you are? What right do you have to ask me?" Zhang Chengxian looked at Zhuan and narrowed his eyes. His tone was not polite. On the other hand, Jiang Mo's entire body trembled as he fell to his knees with a plop. He wanted to remind Zhang Chengxian that the person standing in front of him was not an ordinary person. He was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. "Jiang Mo, what's wrong with you?" When Zhang Chengxian saw Jiang Mo kneeling on the ground in such a cowardly manner, he felt that something was amiss. Jiang Mo trembled as he glanced at Zhuan, then turned to Zhang Chengxian and stammered, "Senior apprentice brother Zhang, the person beside me is Pill Array Immortal Alliance's new immortal master, Zhang." Zhang Qingshuan's body trembled. He looked at Zhuan and blurted out, "You're that Zhuan who got first place in the Pill Grand Assembly and passed through the 12th level of the Pill Array Pagoda?" He, brother Zhang, you're wrong. I'm nothing. How can I have the qualifications to criticize brother Zhang?" Zhuan said indifferently. Zhang Qingshuan's heart trembled, and he hurriedly cupped his hands and apologized. Immortal Master Zhuan must be joking. Just now, this Zhang had eyes but failed to recognize Mount Tai. "I hope Immortal Master Zhuo won't pursue this matter. What if I insist on pursuing the matter? I, Zhuan, am an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. How dare you say I'm nothing in front of me? It doesn't matter if you look down on me, but if you look down on the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I won't let this matter slide. When I return, I'll definitely report this matter to the Alliance head. When the time comes, I think brother Zhang should know better than me what will happen to your Taisui sword faction." Zhuan's tone was leisurely, but Zhang Chengxian felt his scalp go numb. He cursed Jiang Mo in his heart for not informing him of Zhuan's identity earlier. Zhang Chengxian had wrongly accused Jiang Mo. When Jiang Mo knew that Zhuan was coming, the latter had already confiscated his communication jade talisman in advance. Jiang Mo couldn't even contact Zhang Chengxian even if he wanted to. He knew how terrifying Zhuan was. In front of Zhuan, he didn't dare to speak carelessly. He was afraid that Zhuan would slap him again and beat him half to death. He was really scared. "Immortal Master Zhua, it's all my fault. Immortal Master, what do you want me to do?" Zhang Chengxian felt sullen, especially since this Zhuan was only a small primordial chaos lord. There was a huge gap between them, but he had no choice but to lower his voice. After all, Zhuan was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Even when the Taisui sword faction was at its peak, it was still far from being comparable to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, let alone the fact that the Taisui sword faction had completely declined. One had to know that the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was a huge force that even the 5 Dao palaces of the host region had to treat as equals. Even though the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, they had friends all over the world. Their connections were spread across the entire host region. A cultivator's cultivation required the use of divine elixirs and formations. The greater the power, the higher the requirements for formations and divine elixirs. In the host region, there were too many people who came to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance to ask for god pills and array formations. Among them were many old monsters who had retreated from the world. Even the 5 Dao palaces had asked the Pill Array Immortal Alliance for help and owed them some favors. Even though the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was filled with weak alchemists and array masters, once someone set their sights on the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance could easily gather a group of terrifyingly strong experts. An immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance was someone Zhang Qingxian couldn't afford to offend. He could only lower his stance. Zhang Qingshuan's submission attracted the attention of the other disciples of the Taisui sword faction. They looked at Zhuan with eyes full of respect. They had heard the conversation just now and knew that this ordinary-looking youth was actually an honorable immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. "Your mouth is very ugly. Slap yourself 81 times. Don't hold back," Zhuan said indifferently. Zhang Qingshuan's eyes darkened. He clenched his fists tightly and finally slapped himself according to Zhuan's request. Slap, 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 slap. Zhang Chengxian kept slapping himself. The disciples of the Taisui sword faction behind him were all stunned. They didn't expect that the powerful and ruthless senior brother Zhang would actually follow the youth's request and slap himself. After slapping himself, Zhang Qingshuan's mouth was completely swollen like 2 sausages. It was a comical sight. "That's enough. Didn't Lady Xia tell you to bring him to see his father? Now bring us there," Zhuan said expressionlessly. Zhang Qingshuan's mouth was so swollen that he couldn't speak clearly. He could only reply with his spiritual will. Then he brought Xia Qinfan, Zhuan, and the Supreme Elder to the seclusion area of the Taisui sword faction sect master. As for the other disciples that Xia Qinfan brought back, they were arranged to stay in the Taisui sword faction's disciple quarters. Zhang Chengxian finally stopped in front of a sword-shaped building. He pointed at the building and replied to Zhuan with his spiritual will, "The sect master is in seclusion in this sword tower. Due to his serious injuries, I think it's best if Immortal Master Zhuo doesn't disturb him. Bring us in," Xia Qinfan said coldly. Chapter 2834. Face-changing. The sword gauntlet was huge. It was shaped like a divine sword that fell from the sky and stabbed into the ground. The moment Zhuan stepped into the sword gauntlet, he immediately felt a powerful sword energy that was faintly emitted from the inside. This sword energy was extremely sharp and even contained killing intent. Zhang Chengxian opened the door to the deepest room. It was pitch black inside and he said, "Sect Master is inside." "Father." Xia Qinfan did not even think and entered the room. The Supreme Elder followed closely behind her. Zhuan looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and said, "You're not going in?" Zhang Chengxian quickly cupped his hands and said, "I'll pass. I promised the sect master that I would not disturb him, so I won't go in. Does Immortal Master Zhuo have any other instructions? If not, I'll take my leave first." Zhuan looked deeply at Zhang Chengxian and waved his hand casually. Zhang Chengxian bowed and slowly left the sword gauntlet. This Zhang Chengxian has guts. From the start, he planned to lure Lady Xia and the Supreme Elder into the sword gauntlet and kill the 2 of them in one fell swoop. The moment Zhuan entered the sword gauntlet, his divine sense had already sensed that there was a peerless killing array around the sword gauntlet. The level of this killing array was not low. Xia Qinfan and the Supreme Elder would not be able to block such a terrifying killing array. As for Zhuan, although he was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, his strength was too weak. In Zhang Qingshuan's eyes, he would definitely not be able to escape after entering the killing array. Although Zhuan saw through the killing array, he was waiting for Zhang Chengxian to make a move. He was waiting for Zhang Chengxian to give him a reason to kill him. If Zhang Chengxian was apprehensive of Zhuan's identity as an immortal master and did not activate the killing array, then Zhuan would at most help Xia Qinfan ascend the position and would not attack Zhang Chengxian. If he activated the killing array, Zhuan would not be polite and would definitely kill Zhang Chengxian. Thinking of this, Zhuan entered the depths of the room. With a flick of his finger, Zhuan ignited the divine flame and used it as a torch to illuminate the surrounding environment. Around him was an empty space that looked like a warehouse. In the deepest part of the room, there was a huge iron cage with a figure locked inside. This figure was a man with disheveled hair and tattered clothes. He looked like a beggar on the streets. However, from this sloppy man's angular face, it could be seen that if this man was groomed, he would definitely be a handsome man. "Father? Weren't you in seclusion? Why you locked here?" Xia Qinfan rushed to the front of the iron cage and shook the iron cage door with all her might. Her beautiful eyes stared straight at the sloppy man in the iron cage, and her voice was filled with anger and disbelief. Cough, cough. The sloppy man was awakened by Xia Qinfan's voice. Then he widened his eyes and said excitedly, "Qinfan? Is it really you?" "It's me." "Father, what's wrong with you? Why was he locked up here? Didn't Zhang Chengxian say that you were in seclusion to recuperate?" Xia Qinfan was filled with questions. At the same time, she vaguely guessed something. That traitorous disciple. My injuries were mostly healed 200 years ago. However, that traitorous disciple suddenly attacked me and severely injured me. He even imprisoned me in the depths of the sword gauntlet. The sloppy man's eyes widened and were spitting fire. Clearly, he was unable to restrain his anger when he recalled Zhang Qingshuan's actions. What? Why did Zhang Qingxian do this? Could it be for the position of sect leader? The supreme elder was also shocked and said angrily, "That traitorous disciple has always wanted to control the Taisui sword sect. Back then, I had already decided to pass the position of sect leader to Qinfan. However, I don't know how that traitorous disciple found out about it. Then, that traitorous disciple plotted everything." The sloppy man said in a deep voice, "That's right. Hurry up and leave. That traitorous disciple has set up a powerful killing array in the sword gauntlet. You are simply walking into a trap by entering here." The sloppy man seemed to have thought of something and hurriedly urged Xia Qinfan to leave this place. "It's too late. We didn't sneak into the sword gauntlet. It was Zhang Chengxian who let us in." Zhuan, who was standing at the side, suddenly spoke. The sloppy man looked at Zhuan in confusion. He didn't know Zhuan. However, he didn't ask too much. He hurriedly said, "Why are you all so stupid? Can't you see that Zhang Chengxian is a wolf with wild ambitions? You actually followed him obediently into the sword gauntlet." The sloppy man was exasperated. In the end, he sighed helplessly and despair filled his heart. Xia Qinfan was also scared silly. She didn't know what to do and didn't know what to say. On the other hand, the supreme elder was rather calm. He pointed at Zhuan and said to the sloppy man, "Sect leader, this little brother is a newly promoted immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. He has a high status. I think that with Immortal Master Zhua here, that Zhang Qingxian shouldn't act rashly. After all, if something happens to Immortal Master Zhua, the Pill Array Immortal Alliance will definitely blame Zhang Chengxian." The sloppy man was shocked. He hurriedly bowed to Zhuan and said, "You're actually an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? This old man is Xia Yizhu. My eyes were blind just now and didn't recognize Immortal Master." Zhuan waved his hand, indicating that there was no need for formalities. Chapter 28-35. One arrow. Xia Qinfan shouted, "Zhang Chengxian, you're too shameless. My father has never mistreated you, yet you sneak attacked him and imprisoned him here for hundreds of years. Now you want to kill us? Has your conscience been eaten by a dog?" Zhang Chengxian snorted coldly. "I've always been grateful to Master. I'm so outstanding and more talented than you. Master should have passed the sect master's position to me, but he actually chose a slut like you. I refuse to accept this. If Master had passed the sect master's position to me, I would have naturally treated him well and respected him. Unfortunately, he betrayed me, so don't blame me for being heartless." Zhuan shook his head inwardly. He knew that Zhang Qingshuan's mentality was somewhat twisted. Xia Yizhu was the sect master. He had the final say in who he passed the sect master's position to. Not passing it to Zhang Chengxian was a betrayal in his eyes. Zhuan really didn't know what to say. Zhan Qingxian, before entering the sword gauntlet, I gave you a chance. If you hadn't activated the killing formation, I would have let you live. Unfortunately, you chose the wrong path. Zhuan shook his head, but that only caused Zhan Qingxian to mock him. He laughed loudly and said, Immortal Master Zhua, I don't deny that your alchemy skills are very high, but you're just a mere primordial chaos lord. In my eyes, you're just an ant, a piece of trash. Yet you still let me live? Rumble. As soon as Zhan Qingxian finished speaking, the entire sword gauntlet trembled violently. Shortly after, Zhuan discovered that the surrounding space had suddenly exploded with sharp sword qi. These sword qi contained peerless killing intent. Like a meat grinder, they wanted to envelop Zhuan and the others and grind them into pieces. Xia Qinfan, Xia Yizhu, and the Grand Elder's expressions changed greatly. The killing formation's power was too terrifying. It gave them a feeling that they couldn't resist. It's an eternal killing formation. It looks like we're going to die here. Xia Yizhu smiled bitterly. The Grand Elder and Xia Qinfan also fell silent. Xia Qinfan was only a Heaven's Mandate Lord, so she wouldn't be of much use. Xia Yizhu, on the other hand, was too heavily injured and didn't even have a tenth of his strength left. Although the Grand Elder was an eternal overlord, he was only an early-stage eternal overlord. In the face of an eternal overlord formation, he could barely hold on. Moreover, he had to protect Xia Qinfan and Xia Yizhu, so the situation was even worse. Zhuan calmly stood where he was. He took out an ordinary-looking dagger, and then he took out an arrow from the Great World with his right hand. This arrow wasn't a Hou-Yi divine arrow. Instead, it was a Genesis arrow forged by Master Yuan. Zhuan placed the tail feathers of the arrow on the bowstring and pulled the bowstring to a third of the angle. Suddenly, a monstrous killing intent surged out. With Zhuan as the center, the horrifying killing intent spread out in all directions in a ring shape. It actually dispersed the horrifying killing intent produced by the killing array in the sword tower. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder all stared at Zhuan in shock. They stared fixedly at the ordinary-looking wooden bow in Zhuan's hand. This horrifying killing intent was actually emitted by this ordinary-looking wooden bow. Moreover, its power was even more terrifying than the killing array in the sword tower. Bang! Zhuan released the bowstring. The arrow left the bowstring with a thunderous sound. The arrow was extremely fast. It streaked across the sky and shot into the dome of the sword tower. Crackle! Instantly, the entire sword tower trembled violently. The killing array scattered throughout the sword tower emitted ripples of light. Then, the sound of cloth tearing could be heard. Shortly after, Xia Yizhu and the other two were shocked to find that the terrifying killing array in the sword tower had been torn apart. The pressure that originally enveloped the sword tower had completely dissipated. Countless cracks appeared on the originally indestructible surface of the sword tower. The sword tower was actually starting to collapse and crumble. The eternal level array formation collapsed the moment the arrow was shot. What a terrifying arrow! This, Xia Yizhu's eyes were filled with shock and awe. Even if he was at his peak, it would be difficult for him to block this arrow. He would probably be killed in one blow. Thinking of this, Xia Yizhu looked at Zhuan with an even more solemn gaze. He knew that this immortal Master Zhua before him was unfathomable. Although his aura was only that of Lord Primordial Chaos, his strength was extremely terrifying. Outside the sword tower, Zhan Qingxian stood on a huge divine sword and floated not far from the tower. Jiang Emo silently followed behind him. He looked in the direction of the sword tower, his eyes filled with worry. When he learned that Zhan Qingxian planned to kill Zhuan as well, he was extremely shocked. He thought that Zhan Qingxian had gone crazy. If Zhuan died in their Taisui sword sect, the Pillaray Immortal Alliance would definitely not let this matter rest. At that time, their Taisui sword sect would face a calamity of extermination. Although Zhan Qingxian said that he would destroy Zhuan's corpse after killing him and would never admit that Zhuan had come to their Taisui sword sect to avoid disaster, Jiang Emo was still filled with worry. On the divine sword, besides Zhan Qingxian and Jiang Emo, there were two other elders. Their auras were powerful, and they were not any weaker than Zhan Qingxian. They were most likely half-step creators and were the cornerstones of the Tai sword sect. Of the two old men, one had a hideous scar on his face and looked very fierce. The other was a bald old man with a face as gloomy as a venomous snake. Congratulations, Sect Master Jean. You've eliminated a huge threat. From now on, the Tai sword sect will be your world. The scarred elder laughed. Hee, this Xia Qin fan came back to die. It's good that she's dead now. With Sect Master Jean's martial prowess, he'll definitely be able to lead the Tai sword sect back to its peak, the bald elder said in agreement. Jiang Emo sighed at the back. These two elders were the upper echelons of the Tai sword sect and were Zhang Qingxuan's loyal supporters. However, what they didn't know was that apart from Xia Qin Fan, Xia Yizhu, and the Grand Elder, there was also Zhuowen, the immortal master of the Pillar Ray Immortal Alliance. If these two elders knew, they probably wouldn't have urged Zhang Qingxian to activate the killing formation. Rumble. All of a sudden, the huge sword tower collapsed. The killing array that was arranged on the surface of the sword tower also completely collapsed at this moment. The smile on Zhang Qingxuan's face completely froze, and all the hair on his body stood on end. This was because he felt an unprecedented killing intent enveloping his entire body. The crisis of death caused Zhang Qingxian to immediately step on the sword with his right foot, urging it to retreat continuously. The instant the sword tower collapsed, an arrow shot out like a bolt of lightning, shooting toward Zhang Qingxuan's vitals. The speed of this arrow was simply too fast. Although Zhang Qingxian was also continuously retreating, his speed couldn't compare to that lightning arrow. In just a short while, the arrow landed in front of Zhang Qingxian. Zhang Qingxian roared in anger and blocked the arrow with his divine sword. Unfortunately, the divine sword couldn't block the arrow at all. It shattered completely and pierced through Zhang Qingxian in the next breath. The two elders behind Zhang Qingxian immediately sensed that something was wrong. The instant the arrow shot over, they fled in panic. However, the arrow seemed to have a mind of its own. The instant the two elders fled, it directly chased after them and pierced through them, killing them in midair. Chapter 28-36. Refining the Heavenly Mandate Pill Rumble. The sword gauntlet completely collapsed. Zhuan slowly walked out of the dust cloud like a peerless god of war. Xia Qin Fan supported Xia Yizhu as she looked at the young man before her with a complicated expression. In Xia Qin Fan's eyes, Wen was an extremely powerful alchemist. As for his strength, she didn't think he was that powerful. This time, Zhuowen had come alone with her, so she was very worried. She thought that Zhuowen was putting himself in danger, and that his life might be in danger. However, Zhuowen's actions completely dumbfounded her. Not only was Zhuowen's alchemy skills so freakishly terrifying, but even his strength was so terrifying. The sword gauntlet was set up with an eternal grade formation, and Zhang Qingxian and the two elders were famous half-step creators of the Tai sword sect. However, Yuan had only shot a single arrow, and the eternal grade formation had completely collapsed. Zhang Qingxian and the two elders didn't even have the chance to make a sound before their bodies and souls were destroyed. Thank you, Celestial Master Zhua, for helping me get rid of the cancer of the Tai sword sect. Xia Yizhu was a wily old fox. After discovering that he had been saved, he immediately knelt before Zhuowen and shed tears of gratitude. At the same time, Xia Yizhu saw Xia Qin Fan looking at Zhuowen with a strange expression. He wanted to make things right between the two of them. After all, from what Xia Qin Fan had said, Wen had come to the Tai sword sect for her. Xia Qin Fan and the Grand Elders also knelt before Xia Yizhu and expressed their gratitude. Zhuowen waved his hand, indicating that Xia Qin Fan and the others didn't need to be so polite. Celestial Master Zhua, this has nothing to do with me. I tried to persuade senior brother Zhan, but he wouldn't listen. Jiang Emo hurriedly came before Zhuowen and kowtowed repeatedly. His entire body was trembling. Zhuowen was simply too powerful. He had killed the three strongest people of the Tai sword sect so easily. He was like an ant in front of this person. Jiang Emo couldn't afford to offend such a character. Moreover, Jiang Mo's greatest backer, Zhang Qingxian, had also been killed. Right now, Jiang Mo's heart was filled with fear. He could only beg Zhuan to spare his life. The commotion caused by the sword tower had naturally attracted the attention of many disciples from the Taisui sword faction. Many of them rushed to the vicinity of the sword tower. When they saw Jiang Mo repeatedly kowtowing to immortal Master Zhua on the ground while Zhan Chengxian and the two old men's corpses casually fell to the side, their eyes were filled with shock. Discussions and uproars spread out like waves. No one dared to get close, and they watched from afar. What did senior martial brother Jiang Mo do wrong? He's actually kowtowing in such a humble manner. Senior brother Zhan Chengxian and the two elders actually died. Could this have been done by immortal Master Zhua? No, the sect master has come out of seclusion. Could it be that the sect master made a move? Everyone was suspicious as they tried to guess what had just happened. Zhuan looked indifferently at Jiang Mo, then said to Xia Yizhu, "Sect Master Xia, I'll leave this person to you." Xia Yizhu cupped his hands at Zhuan, then summoned two experts from the Taisui sword faction to take Jiang Mo away. After that, Xia Yizhu looked at the disciples in the surroundings and said in a loud and clear voice, "That traitorous disciple, Zhan Chengxian, ambushed me and severely injured me, imprisoning me in the sword tower. Today, immortal Master Zhua saved me and killed that traitorous disciple." With just a few words, Xia Yizhu exposed Zhan Chengxuan's evil deeds over the years. At the same time, he praised Zhuan with all his might. His words were filled with admiration for Zhu. For a moment, everyone from the Taisui sword faction was shocked. They had always thought that Xia Yizhu had been in seclusion in the sword tower for hundreds of years because his injuries were too severe. Now that Xia Yizhu had revealed himself, the truth was so obvious. Immediately, the disciples of the Taisui sword faction were filled with disdain and contempt for the dead Zhan Chengxian. They felt no pity for him. Many of them were from Zhan Chengxuan's faction who had once tried to curry favor with him. Now that Zhan Chengxian was dead and Xia Yizhu had appeared, no one dared to refute Xia Yizhu's words. "Greetings, Sect Master Xia." After Xia Yizhu finished speaking, the surrounding Taisui sword faction cultivators all knelt on one knee and greeted Xia Yizhu in unison. Xia Yizhu waved his hand, dispersing the crowd. Soon after, he cupped his hands at Zhuan and said politely, "Immortal Master Zhua, I dare not forget the kindness you've shown me today. Why don't you stay in the Taisui sword faction for a while so that I can properly entertain you?" Zhuan didn't refuse. He was planning to enter seclusion for a while. His true body's cultivation had already reached the peak of the primordial Chaos Lord realm. He planned to use this time to raise his true body's cultivation. Before that, he needed to refine a large amount of heavenly fate pills for his true body to break through to the heavenly fate Lord realm. Xia Yizhu treated him very well. He arranged the best room for him, provided the prettiest maids, and ordered the servants to follow him wherever he went. However, Yun didn't like such formalities. After entering the room Xia Yizhu had prepared for him, he entered seclusion and refused to be disturbed by anyone. In half a month, Yun had refined a large amount of heavenly fate pills. Zhuan estimated that the heavenly fate pills he'd refined were enough to nurture several hundred heavenly fate lords for some factions. However, Yun still felt that it wasn't enough. However, he'd used up all the ingredients for the heavenly fate pills, so he thickened his skin and asked Xia Yizhu for the ingredients. Of course, Zhuan didn't ask for them for free. The Taisui sword faction would split the profits of the heavenly fate pills he refined. Xia Yizhu was naturally overjoyed. Zhuan was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. His alchemy skills far surpassed the other alchemists in their sect. Moreover, the quality of the pills he'd refined was unique, so he naturally agreed. Although the Taisui sword faction had declined greatly, it was still a Dao Palace level faction. Its foundation was still there, and the ingredients for the heavenly fate pills weren't that precious. Thus, the Taisui sword faction had obtained a large amount of raw materials. Time flew by and another month passed. Zhuan had refined nearly 1,000 batches of heavenly fate pills. His room was filled with medicinal bottles, and each bottle was filled with heavenly fate pills. Zhuan sighed lightly and put away the pill emperor furnace. After giving the Pill Emperor Turtle a certain amount of commission, he slammed his right palm on the ground, causing the surrounding medicinal bottles to explode. Numerous heavenly fate pills with soaring medicinal energy appeared. Then, they were shattered by Zhuowen's powerful strength, forming a terrifying storm of medicinal energy that gathered above Zhuowen's head. Zhuowen's eyes glowed. He suddenly inhaled, and a devouring black hole appeared above his head. It began to madly absorb this storm of powerful medicinal energy. Chapter 2837. Ascension to Heavenly Mandate Master. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. Zhuowen's aura had reached an extremely frightening level. The powerful restrictions in Zhuowen's room trembled violently. Cracks appeared on them, and they finally collapsed. A terrifying aura spread out, causing strange phenomena in heaven and earth. Wind and clouds gathered above Zhuowen's pavilion. Lightning flashed like dragons, and hurricanes wreaked havoc like wild beasts. A terrifying aura swooped down like a ferocious beast. The Tai Sui Sword Sect's territory seemed to be subdued by this aura, and it actually caused a series of earthquakes. All the cultivators were shocked as they looked toward the source of the strange phenomenon. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder landed not far from Zhuowen's pavilion. When they saw the terrifying phenomenon in the sky above the pavilion, they all revealed surprised and bewildered expressions. This is the phenomenon of reaching the second step of Dao validation. Was Immortal Master Zhuo really just Lord Chaos before? Xia Yizhu stared blankly in disbelief. Xia Qinfan was also shocked. When Zhuan shot that terrifying arrow, she had already subconsciously believed that Zhuan was an existence on the level of a god of creation. As for the fact that Zhuan's aura was only at the peak of Lord Chaos, this was very easy to explain. Zhuan must have used some kind of powerful concealment technique to conceal his true aura. However, the phenomenon of Zhuan breaking through to the Heavenly Mandate Master realm was clearly displayed before them. This caused them to fall silent. They knew that Zhuan hadn't concealed his cultivation base and aura before. However, this made them even more shocked. Just how freakish was someone who could easily kill a half-step god of creation with his cultivation base at the peak of Lord Chaos? He's merely Master Chaotic Origin, yet he's able to slay a half-step god of creation. In the entire host region, it seems like only a few exceptional prodigies are capable of such a feat. The Grand Elder murmured to himself with a complicated expression. No. Even those monstrous prodigies can't do it. Even the publicly acknowledged 5 monstrous prodigies of the 5 Dao palaces can't kill a half-step Genesis Lord while he's still at the primordial chaos origin realm. Xia Yizhu shook his head, and his eyes shone with a strange light as he continued. Yi Qidong, the publicly acknowledged strongest of the 5 monstrous prodigies, has also battled half-step creators after he became a heavenly fate lord. However, he was only able to fight half-step creators to a standstill and was unable to kill them. But Celestial Master Zhuo directly killed 3 half-step gods of creation. That's simply astonishing. Xia Qinfan and the Grand Elder both fell silent. Xia Yizhu was right. Zhuowen's strength was clear for all to see. Even Yi Qidong's talent was probably slightly inferior to his. The Pill Array Immortal Alliance is really lucky to have a genius like Immortal Master Zhuo. If our Tai Sui Sword faction can have such a genius, we will definitely be like the sun in the sky. It won't be difficult for us to become the leader of all the Dao palaces. Xia Yizhu let out a long sigh, and his gaze involuntarily landed on Xia Qinfan. Xia Qinfan blushed slightly when she saw Xia Yizhu's gaze. Her beautiful eyes fell on Zhuowen's pavilion, but they dimmed slightly. How could she not understand Xia Yizhu's intentions? However, she was very clear that Zhuan had helped her not because of love, but because he wanted to return a favor. She could see that Zhuan didn't have that kind of feelings for her. The phenomenon lasted for a long time before gradually dissipating. The door of the pavilion opened, and a white-robed youth with an otherworldly aura walked out. Congratulations, Celestial Master Zhuo, for officially stepping into the second step of the Dao validation stage and becoming a heavenly fate lord. Xia Yizhu hurriedly went up to him with a warm smile and endless compliments. Sect Master Xia is too polite. I was able to successfully become a heavenly fate lord today thanks to the heavenly fate pill ingredients you provided. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been so easy for me to break through. Zhuan returned the greeting with a smile and continued, since I've already broken through, I don't plan on disturbing sect master Xia any longer. Xia Yizhu's expression stiffened when he heard this. He hadn't expected Zhuan to leave the Taisui sword sect so soon. He hurriedly urged him to stay, but unfortunately, Zhuan had already made up his mind and couldn't be shaken. Is Immortal Master Zhua going back to the Pilare Immortal Alliance? Xia Yizhu knew that Zhuan was determined to leave, so he didn't continue to urge him to stay. Instead, he asked where he was going. I plan on going to the 10 Extremes Een Corpse Sex Umbra Hell. I plan on searching for something there, Zhuan said. Xia Yizhu's expression changed slightly, and he blurted out, Immortal Master Zhua, are you going to the Umbra Hell to search for the realm-eluding Nethercell flower? You know about the realm-eluding Nethercell flower too? Yun was stunned and looked at Xia Yizhu in surprise. Xia Yizhu was somewhat anxious and advised, Immortal Master Zhua, it's best if you don't go to the Umbra Hell. I can clearly tell you that the Umbra Hell is much more difficult for foreign cultivators than the Umbra Hell. Moreover, even if you can find the realm-eluding Nethercell flower in the Umbra Hell, you won't be able to bring it out. You might even lose your life there. Zhuan's eyes narrowed. He looked at Xia Yizhu and asked, Sect Master Xia, what do you mean? Immortal Master Zhua, this involves some secrets that can't be divulged to outsiders. It won't do you any good if I tell you. Xia Yizhu hesitated and didn't dare to say anything. Sect Master Xia, tell me. I'll satisfy you whatever you want. Yun stared at Xia Yizhu. He felt that the latter definitely knew some secrets about the Umbra Hell that couldn't be revealed to the public. This secret might have great implications. However, what puzzled Zhuan was why Ji Wuming hadn't told him about the Umbra Hell's secrets. Or was it that Ji Wuming didn't know the specifics of the Umbra Hell? Xia Yizhu hesitated and seemed to have made up his mind. He solemnly said to Zhuan, Immortal Master Zhua, I'll tell you this, but you absolutely can't tell anyone else, especially those from the 10 Ultimates Een Corpse sect. Otherwise, I'm afraid I'll be killed. Zhuan naturally gave his guarantee, and Shoizhu finally told him everything he knew. Zhuan's expression didn't look too good after hearing this. It turned out that the Taisui sword sect had sent many cultivators into the Umbra Hell to train at its peak. Although the Umbra Hell was extremely dangerous, it was rich in heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Any cultivator who trained there would make significant breakthroughs in their cultivation after they left. At that time, the Taisui sword sect had sent many cultivators into the Umbra Hell. Although many of them died, those who came out had great gains. At that time, the Taisui sword sect had a genius called Xia Haoren. He was brilliant and was the strongest genius of the Taisui sword sect. Xia Haoren accidentally obtained the elusive underworld soul flower in the Umbra Hell. He was overjoyed and wanted to leave the Umbra Hell immediately. However, Xia Haoren had died. Before Xia Haoren died, he had sent a fragmented message to his clan brother. The realm-eluding underworld soul flower is a trap. Xia Haoren was my ancestor. With his strength back then, he could have easily left the Umbra Hell. However, he died inexplicably there. Moreover, the last message proved that the elusive underworld soul flower can't be touched in the Umbra Hell. Chapter 28:38. Killing Formation. Zhuan's eyes narrowed slightly. He understood the meaning behind Xia Yizhu's words. The realm-eluding Nethercell flower was very useful to the 10 Extremities Een Corpse sect. Once someone from the outside world found it, the 10 Extremities Een Corpse sect would probably take it by force. Of course, this was just Zhuan's guess, but it made him more vigilant. He couldn't help but recall how Ji Wuming had contacted the sect master of the 10 Extremities Een Corpse sect and planned to exchange a fortune-grade divine pill for the realm-eluding Nethercell flower. However, the sect master of the 10 Extremities Een Corpse sect didn't agree. From this, it could be seen how important the realm-eluding Nethercell flower was to the sect master of the 10 Extremities Een Corpse sect. He didn't even care about a fortune-grade divine pill. Zhuan felt a little strange. The realm-eluding nethersoul flower was only a fortune-grade divine herb. Its value couldn't compare to a fortune-grade divine pill. However, the sect master of the 10 Extremities Corpse sect valued it so much. Could it be that the realm-eluding nethersoul flower had some unknown use? As Zhuan thought of this, the communication jade talisman at his waist suddenly lit up. Someone had sent him a message. After Zhuan checked the message, his body trembled, and a wave of killing intent erupted from him. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder, who were standing beside Zhuan, were the first to bear the brunt of the killing intent. They couldn't help but take a few steps back. Their eyes were filled with shock. Master Zhua, what's wrong? Xia Yizhu asked cautiously. Zhuan withdrew his killing intent and cupped his fists at Xia Yizhu. Thank you for telling me the secret of the realm-eluding nethersoul flower, Sect Master Xia. Take this as my gift to you. I still have important matters to attend to, so I'll take my leave first. Zhuan took out a jade bottle and handed it to Xia Yizhu. Then he hurriedly bid farewell and left. Xia Yizhu, Xia Qinfan, and the Grand Elder looked at Zhuowen's back as he hurriedly left. Their eyes were filled with confusion. It seems Master Zhua has some urgent matters to attend to, Xia Yizhu muttered regretfully. Sect Master, I wonder what kind of divine medicine is in the jade bottle that Master Zhua gave you? You can open it and take a look, the Grand Elder suddenly said. Xia Yizhu nodded and opened the jade bottle. His eyes were filled with pleasant surprise. It's actually a special-grade turtle serpent pill. This is the best healing elixir among the eternal grade elixirs. Thank you, immortal Master Zhua. Xia Yizhu couldn't help but sigh. His injuries were very serious, and his cultivation base had dropped significantly. It would take him a lot of time to recover. However, with the unique grade turtle serpent pill that Zhuan had given him, his recovery speed would definitely be greatly increased, and the recovery time would be shortened. After Zhuan left the Tai-Sui sword faction, he immediately summoned the space-time roulette and pushed his speed to the limit. His destination was the Lightning God Garden. It was Fire Plume who had sent him the message. In the message, Fire Plume had informed him that Purple Red Cottage had been destroyed by Lightning God Park. Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei had lost their minds. They had actually left the Pill Array Immortal Alliance and returned to the Lightning God Park's Purple Red Cottage. Zhuan didn't know how Fire Plume and the others were doing. In the message, Fire Plume had only said that they were going to the Purple Red Cottage. He hadn't said anything about their current situation. Because the Tai-Sui sword faction had declined too much, most of the sect's teleportation arrays were old and couldn't be used. Zhuan naturally couldn't rely on the Tai-Sui sword faction's teleportation arrays to reach the Lightning God Park. Fortunately, the Tai-Sui sword faction wasn't far from the Lightning God Park. Zhuan pushed the space-time roulette speed to the limit, and it only took him 3 days to reach the Lightning God Park. He directly went to the Purple Red Cottage. When Zhuan arrived at the Purple Red Cottage's base, his eyes blazed with fury. At this moment, the Purple Red Cottage was littered with corpses and blood. Only ruins were left of the Purple Red Cottage. Zhuan, you really came. I didn't guess wrongly. You really are a righteous person. The moment you heard that your friends were in trouble, you rushed over immediately. You didn't even consider the consequences. Far away from the ruins, a beautiful figure slowly walked over. She wore a red dress and her beautiful eyes carried a trace of charm. Zhuan looked at the red-clothed woman in front of him. Killing intent exploded from his eyes. He stared at the red-clothed woman and said coldly, "Lei Zixuan, where are Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chimei?" Zhuan didn't understand. This Lei Zixuan already knew that he was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Why did she still plan to deal with him? Was the Lightning God Park not afraid of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance? Lei Zixuan sneered. Don't worry, the 3 of them aren't dead. However, I want to ask you something. My Lightning God Park's court master chased after you. Where did he go? Lei Zixuan stared at Zhuan. She knew that this Zhuan wasn't simple, but she didn't think that Lei Litian would die. Even though Lei Litian's life imprint had disappeared, she still didn't believe it. He was a mid-stage Genesis overlord, the strongest expert in the lightning god park. How could he die just like that? Hence, Lei Zixuan had to find out where Lei Lidian had gone. What does Lei Litian's whereabouts have to do with me? I think Miss Lei is looking for the wrong person. Zhuan calmed down, but the killing intent in his eyes burned even brighter. It's fine if you don't say anything. Once I capture you, I'll extract your soul and forcefully search your memories. At that time, I'll know where Lei Lidian is. Lei Zixuan snapped her fingers as she spoke, and the entire purple-red schoolhouse was enveloped by a terrifying aura. It was as if a primordial beast had been awakened. Tuan, this is a Genesis Overlord killing formation I prepared for you. It cost me quite a bit. Lei Zixuan slowly retreated from the barrier, and her eyes were filled with mockery. Rumble. Endless lightning wreaked havoc and filled the entire barrier. It was as if the might of the heavens had descended upon Zhuan. These lightning bolts weren't simple. Each one of them was powerful enough to kill an eternal overlord. Even a Genesis overlord wouldn't be able to withstand so much lightning. In Lei Zixuan's eyes, Zhuan wouldn't be able to withstand such terrifying heavenly lightning. However, she soon discovered that the young man in the lightning barrier was slowly walking over. He was actually able to withstand the terrifying might of the lightning and was glaring at her with murderous intent. Lei Zixuan frowned and snapped her fingers again. More than a dozen figures suddenly emerged from the ground. The dozen or so silhouettes had a tacit understanding. They held blood-red short swords and silently stabbed at Zhuo Wen's vital points. Blood prison assassins? Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed. He recognized the assassins at a glance. He had been ambushed by the blood prison assassins before, so he was extremely wary of their terrifying concealment techniques. Even now, if it weren't for these assassins, he wouldn't have discovered that they were hiding underground. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. The assassins' attacks were approaching, and they unceremoniously greeted Zhuan. Zhuan stretched his body. His fists and feet turned into peerless weapons as he used the tyrannical art of Dao slaying to meet the assassins. These assassins were only at the profound theory overlord's level, but their killing techniques were extremely terrifying. Moreover, they worked together well enough to kill an eternal overlord. With Zhuo Wen's strength, if he used the Pangu's sacred body, he could instantly kill these assassins. However, Zhuo didn't. He felt that Lei Zixuan must have a hidden trump card. If he exposed his trump card too quickly, he was afraid that the enemy hiding in the dark would be afraid and secretly retreat. He was waiting for the person hiding in the dark to make a move. Then he would kill them one by one. Chapter 2839. Blood Lightning. Zhuo Wen's strength has exceeded my expectations. He actually managed to withstand a Genesis realm killing formation and survive the onslaught of a dozen blood prison assassins. Yin Wuxia frowned in surprise as he watched the scene unfold in the ruins of the purple-red schoolhouse. Elder Yin, you must not underestimate that child. Zhuo Wen's cultivation is not high. However, his physical body is extremely powerful. Back then, I had chased after that child to kill him. Yet, I was unable to completely eliminate him. Huang Wu stood beside Yin Wuxia, his gaze solemn as he spoke in a low voice. In the past, he had chased after Zhuo Wen partly because Zhuo Wen had killed a few princes of the Huangji clan, but more importantly, it was because Huang Wu coveted the Hou-Yi divine arrow on Zhuo Wen. Although Huang Wu had never personally witnessed how terrifying Hou-Yi's godly arrow was, he had seen it kill Grandmaster Yuan Hui from the images of the Sun-Moon demonic mirror. He knew how terrifying it was. Huang Wu had once thought about it. If he had been in Grandmaster Yuan Hui's position, his performance might have been better, but he would definitely have been injured. And this was because Zhuo Wen's cultivation base was very low, and he was unable to unleash the full power of Hou-Yi's divine arrow. If he could get his hands on the arrow, Huang Wu was confident that he would be invincible among his peers. He wouldn't even fear a peak Genesis realm cultivator and could even kill them. As long as he could get his hands on the arrow, Huang Wu was confident that he could lead the Huangji family to another peak. Even if the Huangji family couldn't become a Dao Palace faction, it would still rank among the top 3 Dao Palaces. Patriarch Huang Wu, you personally pursued Zhuo Wen, but you still couldn't kill him? Elder Een was surprised. She recalled that Zhuan's cultivation was only Lord Chaos origin when he participated in the Pill Tempering Assembly. Now that he was a Heaven's Mandate Master, he should have ascended after the Pill Tempering Assembly. In other words, when Huangwu chased after Zhuan, this Zhuan was actually just a Chaos origin lord. How did he manage to escape with his life? Yin Wuxie was in disbelief. At the same time, he started to take Zhuan seriously. Yes, this kid is not simple. Elder Yin, you better not underestimate him. Huangwu cautioned. He suspected that the disappearance of Lei Lidian was definitely related to this Zhuan, but he did not tell Yin Wuxie about this. Huangwu didn't even mention anything about Hoyi's god arrow. He had his own selfish motives. He knew that the origins of Ho Yi's divine arrow were extraordinary. If he told this to Yin Wuxie, he was afraid that Yin Wuxie would covet it. Yin Wuxie was an elder of the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect, and he was also a late-stage god of creation. Whether it was status or cultivation, Huangwu was far above him. If Yin Wuxie wanted to compete with him, Huangwu knew that he would not stand a chance. Fierce bloody light, accompanied by terrifying lightning, constantly flashed in the lightning barrier. Zhuan was inside the lightning barrier. His eyes were cold, and his figure was like the wind. Bolts of lightning fell on his figure, but they only hit his afterimage. The dozen or so blood prison assassins were expressionless as they stabbed out with their bloody swords. Every move was fatal and merciless. The cultivation of these blood prison assassins was not very strong. They were all at the level of Profound Secrets Lord. However, their cooperation was too good. Their combined strength was terrifying, and they could even kill an ordinary Eternal Overlord. With Zhuan's current strength, even if he did not use the power of the Pangu's sacred body, it would not be difficult for him to get rid of these blood prison assassins. However, he was still trapped in the God of Creation killing formation. The lightning contained within was extremely terrifying. Zhuan was dodging rather awkwardly, so he could not divert his attention to get rid of the blood prison assassins who were sneak attacking him in one go. Of course, this was also deliberately done by Zhuan. If he had displayed the full power of the Pangu's sacred body, these assassins would have been a piece of cake for him. He was waiting for the hidden hand that was lurking in the dark. If he guessed correctly, the hidden hand might be Yin Wuxie and Huangwu. Outside the killing formation, Lei Zixuan put her hands behind her back and frowned slightly. She stared at Zhuan, who was inside the formation, with surprise in her beautiful eyes. She had used a God of Creation stage killing formation. Even Lei Lidian, the master of the Lightning God Garden, would be in an extremely sorry state in the face of this killing formation. Against the combined might of these dozen or so blood prison assassins, there was most likely a possibility that he would be injured. Although Zhuan was also in an extremely difficult situation, in Lei Zixuan's heart, Zhuan was just the Lord of Destiny. How could he be compared to Lei Lidian? Now, however, Lei Zixuan no longer dared to look down on Zhuan. Lei Zixuan even had a hunch that Lei Litian's disappearance might have been caused by Zhuan. Thinking of this possibility, a chill rushed from the soles of her feet to the top of her head. She only felt a chill all over her body. I must kill this kid. Lei Zixuan came back to her senses, and her beautiful eyes were filled with killing intent. She took out a golden talisman, bit the tip of her tongue, and spat out a mouthful of blood on it. After the golden talisman was stained with blood, it was immediately dyed blood red, and it was full of a demonic aura. Lei Zixuan held the blood-red talisman in her jade-like hand and threw it into the killing formation. Suddenly, the blue lightning in the killing formation turned into terrifying blood-red thunderbolts. The killing array's aura skyrocketed, like a ferocious beast that had just awoken, causing people to shudder. Zhuan's face changed slightly. He didn't expect the thunderbolts of the killing formation to suddenly become so terrifying. He was careless and was struck in the chest by a blood-red thunderbolt. Blood exploded, revealing a deep bloody hole, and white bones could be vaguely seen. Zhuan's eyes were solemn. He used his body movement with all his strength to avoid the blood-red thunderbolts. After the thunderbolts in the killing formation turned blood-red, Not only did their power become terrifying, but their speed also increased by several times. If it weren't for this, Zhuan wouldn't have been injured by the blood-red thunderbolts just now. Zhuowen's eyes were filled with anger, but he was very calm. He still dodged in a panic and didn't expose his Pangu's sacred body. Boom, boom, boom. The blood-red thunderbolts spread and scattered into a thunderstorm. More than a dozen blood prison assassins shuttled back and forth in the thunderstorm without being affected at all. This killing formation was controlled by someone, and it only targeted Zhuowen. Zhuowen's injuries were getting more and more serious. He knew that he couldn't delay any longer. He had to deal with the blood prison assassins first. Thinking of this, Zhuowen stomped his right foot, causing the whole earth to tremble a few times. Zhuowen disappeared like an arrow leaving the bow. At this moment, Zhuowen's speed was much faster than before. He instantly swept in front of the nearest blood prison assassin and punched out, causing the space to explode. The blood prison assassin was expressionless and his eyes were indifferent. The blood-red sword in his right hand was still aimed at Zhuowen's vital point. Zhuowen's left hand snatched the blood-red sword from the assassin's right hand. With a sudden force, the assassin's right hand was directly broken. Chapter 2840. Lei Zishuan's concerns whoosh. Whoosh, whoosh. The moment Zhuowen killed the blood prison assassin, the rest of the blood prison assassins were expressionless. They took advantage of this opportunity to attack fiercely, wanting to kill Zhuowen with one blow. Zhuowen growled. He felt that these blood prison assassins were like flies. They were very annoying and couldn't be swatted away. Zhuowen blocked some of the attacks and used his agility to dodge at the same time. However, two blood prison assassins still took advantage of the opening and stabbed their blood swords into his body. Zhuowen's eyes were cold. His right palm moved like the wind and instantly fell on the heads of the two blood prison assassins, annihilating their heads and souls. Now, every time Zhuowen killed a blood prison assassin, he would expose a flaw and be attacked by the rest of the blood prison assassins. Although Zhuowen's body had withstood dozens of swords from the blood prison assassins and was bleeding profusely, he was still full of energy and constantly finished off the remaining blood prison assassins. When Zhuowen was about to finish off the last blood prison assassin, the assassin stared at Zhuowen and said coldly, "Zhuowen, you have killed many of our assassins without any scruples. You have been put on the blood prison's kill list. Next, you will face the endless pursuit of our blood prison. If it weren't for your blood prison attacking me again and again, would I have killed your assassins? Since you have come to kill me, then come at me. I will send all of you down to see the king of hell." Zhuowen's eyes were cold. After saying this, he grabbed the blood prison assassin's neck with his right hand and squeezed hard, completely crushing him. The power of the Pangu's sacred body was too terrifying. Zhuowen had not fully exerted the power of the Pangu's sacred body, but he could still easily crush Lord Xuanji and an ordinary eternal overlord with his bare hands. After killing the last blood prison assassin, another blood lightning bolt suddenly struck down and blasted Zhuowen's back, causing him to fall to the ground. Zhuowen rolled on the ground, dodging the blood lightning that continuously struck him from behind. He then rushed towards Lei Zishuan, who was outside the killing array. At this moment, Lei Zishuan's beautiful face was incomparably pale. Just now, in order to increase the power of the killing formation's lightning, she had paid a great price. Now, she had almost no combat strength left. How is that possible? How could this Zhuowen be so strong? Could it be that Land Master Lei wasn't missing, but really dead? Moreover, he died at the hands of this brat? Lei Zishuan continuously retreated. Her beautiful eyes stared fixedly at the young man who was getting closer and closer to her. Her heart turned cold as she felt an unprecedented fear. Elder Yin, Patriarch Huang, when are you going to stop watching the show? Lei Zishuan shrieked. She couldn't endure Zhuowen's gaze that was filled with killing intent and started to call out to Yin Wuxie and Huang Wu, who were hiding in the dark. This kid is indeed extraordinary. He actually managed to survive the Genesis grade killing formation and even killed a dozen blood prison assassins at the level of the Master of Profundity. In the darkness, Yin Wuxie's gaze was calm as he slowly walked out. Although Zhuowen's performance just now was shocking, it was still within the acceptable range. Yin Wuxia himself was a late-stage Genesis Lord. Although the killing formation that Lei Zixuan had brought out was powerful, it could only trap a mid-stage Genesis Lord at most. However, if she wanted to trap Yin Wuxia, it would probably be a little difficult. Yin Wuxia saw that Zhuowen couldn't even break through the killing formation, so he naturally didn't put Zhuowen in his eyes too much. He felt that as long as he made a move, this brat would definitely die. Huang Wu followed behind Yin Wuxia. His eyes flickered, and his expression was somewhat gloomy. Zhuowen's strength had increased too quickly. Before the Pill Rhythm Grand Assembly, this Yun had to flee pathetically from his hands. He wasn't a match for him at all. But now, in such a terrifying killing formation, he actually managed to survive and even killed a dozen blood prison assassins from the Master of Profundity. One had to know that those who could become blood prison assassins weren't ordinary cultivators. They were basically powerhouses who could assassinate powerhouses of the same level. The hands of those blood prison assassins were stained with the blood of many of the Master of Profundity's experts. They had even joined forces to assassinate eternal overlords. Huang Wu had thought that if he were in such a situation, he wouldn't be able to hold on for long. He would be severely injured or even killed. However, Yun had survived. Huang Wu knew that if he attacked alone, it would be impossible for him to take down Zhuan. He might even be killed instead. So, it's you guys. Yun came to the edge of the killing formation. While dodging the blood lightning strikes, he coldly looked at Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu, who had walked out from the darkness. Yin Wuxia laughed heartily and cast a sidelong glance at Zhuan. Zhuan, I admit that you are indeed amazing. You're just a heavens-destined master, yet you have such strength. Even the monstrous genius of the 10 Extremities Yin Corpse sect, Ghost Plume, is inferior to you. But now, you haven't stepped into the third step of the Tao validation realm. The gap between you and me is as wide as a chasm. If you surrender now and kill yourself in front of me, I can still leave you with an intact corpse. Yin Wuxia was very conceited. He didn't even look Zhuowen in the eye. He definitely had Zhuowen in his grasp. Huang Wu stood behind Yin Wuxia with a mocking expression. You're already an arrow at the end of its flight. Your situation is bleak. Don't tell me you still want to stubbornly resist? Zhuan completely ignored Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu, who were threatening him. Instead, he coldly looked at Lei Zixuan and said, Where are Fire Plume, Steel Plume, and Tong Chime? Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu's appearance had calmed Lei Zixuan's heart, and she felt much more confident. Lei Zixuan's beautiful eyes cast a sidelong glance at Xun. She couldn't hide the mocking expression on her face. You're really too gullible. Let me tell you the truth. Fire Plume and the others are still in the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Then how did you get Fire Plume's communication Jade Talisman? Zhuan asked gloomily. Fire Plume is just a heavens-destined master. It's too easy for us to steal her communication Jade Talisman without anyone knowing. Lei Zixuan took out a Jade Talisman from her spirit ring and waved it in front of Zhuan. Her pretty face was full of pride. The moment Zhuan saw the Jade Talisman, he didn't become flustered and exasperated like Lei Zixuan had imagined. Instead, he let out an unbridled laugh. What are you laughing at? Lei Zixuan's expression was somewhat ugly. Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu also felt that it was strange. They looked at the unbridled Zhuan as if they were looking at an idiot. Since Fire Plume and the others are safe, then I don't need to be afraid. Zhuan sighed in his heart. Previously, he was afraid not only because Huang Wu and Yin Wuxia were hiding in the shadows, but also because the safety of Fire Plume and the others was in Lei Zixuan's hands. Chapter 2841. This explode. What's the meaning of this? Lei Zixuan furrowed her brows as she sensed that something was amiss. She yelled at Zhuan. In her opinion, Zhuowen was really too strange. He was clearly only a Heaven's Mandate Master Cultivator, but he had been able to survive the combined attack of a Genesis realm-killing array and a dozen blood prison assassins. He had even managed to kill them. She had already begun to believe that Lei Litian's disappearance was definitely because of this Zhuan. Thus, she didn't dare to be careless when facing this Zhuan. Yin Wuxia sneered. I think you've lost your mind. You're still laughing so arrogantly even when you're about to die. You must be tired of living. Huang Wu's eyes flashed, and he subconsciously retreated. He knew how terrifying the Ho-E divine arrow that he had obtained from Zhuan was. If he really activated it, he wouldn't be able to withstand it. However, he also knew that once Zhuan activated the Ho-E divine arrow, he would be completely powerless, and there would be many openings. At that time, he would be able to capture this brat easily. Yin Wuxia was very powerful. He was a late-stage god of creation, and he was much more powerful than Huang Wu. With Yin Wuxia leading the charge, Huang Wu relaxed slightly. However, he didn't dare to relax too much. The one who's tired of living isn't me. It's you. Zhuowen's voice was calm as his body glowed with a translucent light. A powerful aura surged from his body as if he were an awakened mutant beast. Originally, his body was in tatters and covered in blood, and he looked like a warrior who was about to die on the battlefield. However, at this moment, these terrifying injuries were actually healing at a speed visible to the naked eye under the translucent light radiating from his body. Bang, bang, bang. Zhuan took a step forward and bombarded the edge of the killing formation with a series of punches. One after another, fist seals appeared on the edge of the killing formation as if they were branded on it. Then, the massive killing formation trembled violently. The blood lightning within the formation became even denser and more terrifying, and it landed on Zhuowen's body like a vortex. The blood-red lightning was extremely terrifying and could tear apart any material. However, Zhuowen's physical body resisted it. When the blood lightning struck, it only left faint charred marks on Zhuowen's body. How is that possible? Is this guy's body really that terrifying? Lei Zixuan's beautiful eyes narrowed into needles. She found this unbelievable. Yin Wuxia and Huang Wu's faces darkened. They were shocked that Zhuan had been hiding his strength. Bang bang bang. The blood lightning array trembled more and more violently, as if it would collapse at any moment. Given Zhuowen's strength, it would be difficult for him to use brute force to break the blood lightning array. However, he was still an eternal level array god master. He was not far from the Genesis level, so he could figure out the specific trajectory of the blood thunder array. During the process of being bombarded, he had found many flaws and weaknesses in the blood lightning array. Now that he had displayed the full power of the 5-star Pangu's sacred body and focused on the weaknesses of the blood lightning array, Zhuan believed that he would be able to completely break the blood lightning array in no time. Oh no, the array can't hold on any longer. Zhuan also knows array Dao. Lei Zixuan's beautiful face changed drastically, and she exclaimed, "You have some skills. However, I will definitely make you suffer at my hands today." Yin Wuxia snorted coldly. Like a gust of wind, she charged toward Zhuowen. Yin Wuxia knew that he had completely offended Zhuowen. If he let Zhuowen go now, he would definitely complain to the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Perhaps the Pill Array Immortal Alliance would not dare to do anything to the 10 Extremities Yin Corps sect. However, the 10 Extremities Yin Corps sect would definitely hand over Yin Wuxia to appease the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. When Yin Wuxia found out, he would definitely be in a miserable situation and would not be able to bear the consequences. Therefore, he had to kill this person now. He could not let the tiger return to the mountain. Zhuan also threw out a punch. When the fist and palm collided, the ripples that spread out caused the entire ground to explode. It was as if an unprecedented earthquake had occurred. Zhuan groaned. His right fist was directly fractured, and he kept retreating. On the other hand, Yin Wuxia's body only swayed a little before he stabilized himself. His eyes were filled with killing intent as he continued to rush toward Zhuan. He wanted to completely kill Zhuowen here and now. Zhuowen's face darkened. He had underestimated Yin Wuxia's strength. Yin Wuxia's cultivation was only one level higher than Lei Litian's, but their strength was worlds apart. He was much stronger than Lei Litian. Zhuowen's 5-star Pangu's sacred body was currently facing Yin Wuxia head-on. He was just looking for a beating. Bang, bang, bang. Yin Wuxia's following attacks became fiercer and more terrifying. Every move was fatal, destroying the laws and collapsing the space. Zhuan was almost beaten back. He was completely at a disadvantage, and the injuries on his body were getting more and more serious. Fortunately, Zhuowen's self-healing ability was too abnormal. Although his injuries were serious, he was slowly recovering. He was barely able to fight Yin Wuxia. Yin Wuxia became more and more surprised as the fight went on. With his strength, it was easy for him to kill thousands of Destiny Masters with one move. However, Zhuowen was only a Destiny Master. He had fought hundreds of rounds with him, but he only had the upper hand. He was unable to kill this person. Huang Wu, who was not far away, did not step forward to participate in the fight. Instead, he stood in the distance and silently observed the battle. He was very afraid of Zhuowen's Hou Yi's godly arrow. He wanted to wait until Zhuowen used the Hou Yi's godly arrow before he attacked Zhuowen. Otherwise, if he attacked now, he would be severely injured by Zhuowen in just a few moves. After all, the strength displayed by this person was too terrifying. He was actually able to fight Yin Wuxia, a late-stage creator, without being defeated. He was far from being able to compete with him. Bang! Invisible ripples surged out like a vortex. Then, Zhuowen let out a muffled groan as Yin Wuxia's fist smashed into his chest. His entire body fell to the ground, sinking into the depths of the ground so deep that the bottom couldn't be seen. Yin Wuxia was high above. Victory was in his hands. You're very strong. Although you're only a Destiny Master, it's not easy for you to fight with me to this extent. It's time for me to finish you off. As for the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, I'll make up a suitable reason for your death. You can go in peace. Yin Wuxia said calmly. He faced his right palm up and gently squeezed. Instantly, a terrifying pitch-black energy gathered and rotated in his palm. Bang! Yin Wuxia's right palm suddenly covered the bottom of the pit. Instantly, the pitch-black energy in his palm transformed into an incomparably huge black skull. The black skull opened its ghastly mouth and abruptly descended, swallowing the entire crater. Rumble! However, at this moment, a vast killing intent as vast as the universe suddenly exploded, causing the surrounding atmosphere to become stifling. The black skull directly collapsed into a black fog. A ray of blood-red light shot out from the black fog, streaking across the sky and shooting towards Yin Wuxia. The corners of Yin Wuxia's eyes twitched as he felt an extremely terrifying threat. He roared loudly and exploded with the most powerful energy in his body. He fiercely slammed his palm against the blood-red light. Puchi! The blood-red light was very straightforward. It pierced through Yin Wuxia's attack and through his palm. It swept out from his shoulder, bringing with it a bloody mist. Yin Wuxia spat out a mouthful of blood. His right hand was directly crippled and fell to the ground in a miserable state. Now's the time. Chapter 2842. Shunting down Yin Wuxia, the black mist completely dissipated, and Huang Wu arrived in front of the figure in the depths of the black mist. The ecstasy in Huang Wu's eyes became even more pronounced. He knew that he was about to kill his greatest enemy, and the secrets on this brat's body would belong to him. But very quickly, he felt that something was off. He was indeed close to Zhuowen, but at the same time, he acutely felt that an extremely terrifying killing intent had instantly locked onto him, causing all the hairs on his body to stand on end as he felt the threat of death. Huang Wu was no stranger to this killing intent. Wasn't this the same killing intent that had been released by Hou Yi's divine arrow? However, Huang Wu had seen with his own eyes that Zhuowen had already unleashed that Hou Yi's divine arrow and severely wounded a late-stage god of creation like Yin Wuxia. Logically speaking, Zhuowen should be completely exhausted, and there was no way he could unleash a second Hou Yi's divine arrow. However, at that moment, Huang Wu could see Zhuowen standing proudly in the depths of the black fog. He held an ordinary-looking wooden bow in his right hand. A divine arrow was knocked on the bowstring of the wooden bow. Huang Wu could tell that the divine arrow on the wooden bow wasn't the blood-stained Hou Yi's divine arrow. Instead, it was a very ordinary divine arrow. Furthermore, he discovered that the terrifying killing intent wasn't emanating from the ordinary divine arrow. Instead, it was erupting from the wooden bow, and it was extremely sharp and frightening. This guy still has a trump card up his sleeve. Huang Wu had a bad feeling and his scalp went numb. He wanted to retreat, but he was simply too close to Zhuan. It was impossible for him to stop and turn around, so he could only grit his teeth and charge forward. Although Huangwu felt that something was wrong, the arrow was already knocked on the bowstring, and he had no choice but to unleash it. His only choice was to kill Zhuan. After all, the two of them were already in a state of life and death. Zhuan was very calm, and a mocking smile appeared on his face as he looked at Huangwu, who was getting closer and closer to him. He pulled the bowstring to 1/3 of the arc, pinched the feather at the end of the arrow, and gently loosened it. There was a loud explosion that sounded like countless thunderbolts exploding in the sky. Then, the divine arrow turned into a ray of blood light and flew toward Huangwu at an extremely fast speed. The divine arrow and Huangwu's attack fiercely collided, creating extremely terrifying ripples. Huangwu screamed miserably. His attacks were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow from the divine arrow. The divine arrow pierced through Huangwu's arms like a hot knife through butter and into my chest. Blood mist burst out from Huangwu's body, and it was glistening with blood. Huangwu kept pushing the power in his body, trying to stop the arrow from piercing through his body. However, all of this was useless. All of his efforts were in vain. He could only watch as the divine arrow pierced through his entire body. His body was also torn to pieces by the powerful force of the divine arrow. Zhuan took a step forward, formed a sword with his right hand, and pointed it at Huangwu's forehead. The power of the 5 stars Pangu's sacred body erupted without any reservation, completely annihilating Huangwu's remaining divine soul. Huangwu stared at Zhuan, and his breath was cut off. He died with his eyes wide open. Zhuan quickly put away Huangwu's spiritual ring, and his gaze fell on Yin Wuxia, whose right arm was pierced by the divine arrow. At this moment, Yin Wuxia was in an extremely sorry state. His right arm was completely broken, and there was a bloody hole in his chest. Because he was severely injured by the divine arrow, Yin Wuxia's divine soul was also damaged, and his consciousness was a little blurry. However, Yin Wuxia knew that he had to escape. If he didn't escape, he would die. Therefore, after he came back to his senses, he didn't hesitate to run away. Zhuan silently looked at Yin Wuxia, who was running away in a panic, and frowned. Both of the divine arrows he shot were ordinary divine arrows. Relying on the powerful killing intent of the Hou-Yi godly bow, the ordinary divine arrows became extraordinarily powerful. However, they were only able to seriously injure Yin Wuxia, and he even had the strength to run away. Even Huangwu couldn't completely kill him. In the end, Yuan had to add another strike to kill Huangwu. Zhuowen knew that this was most likely due to the fact that the divine arrow he had hired was only at the God of Creation stage. If the Hou-Yi godly bow was used with the Hou-Yi godly bow, Huangwu and Yin Wuxia wouldn't even have the time to resist before they were blasted into pieces. Not far away, Lei Zixuan was indescribably shocked. She saw with her own eyes that Huangwu was easily killed, and Yin Wuxia fled in panic. She felt a trace of regret in her heart, and she immediately ran away without hesitation. If she didn't run away now, she would probably follow in Huangwu's footsteps. Unfortunately, just as Lei Zixuan was about to run away, she was targeted by Zhuan. In just a short while, Zhuowen caught up to her. Zhuan grabbed Lei Zixuan and used a powerful force to restrict her movements. He casually threw her to a corner of the space-time roulette, while Zhuan controlled the space-time roulette to chase after the fleeing Yin Wuxia. Because Yin Wuxia was seriously injured, his speed wasn't fast. However, the intense feeling of fear caused Yin Wuxia to burn her blood essence to escape with all her might. He was extremely regretful. He never thought that Zhuan, who he looked down on, would be so powerful that he almost killed him. If he didn't have some trump cards, he would have died under that arrow. How could this kid have such a terrifying divine artifact? What kind of divine artifact is it? Yin Wuxia roared in his heart, and his emotions were filled with despair. He knew that even if he escaped this time, his following days wouldn't be easy. He had completely offended Zhuowen, who was an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. Attempting to assassinate an immortal master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance would definitely be despised by the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. If the matter of him trying to assassinate Zhuan was exposed, even the Ten Extremities Corps sect wouldn't be able to protect him. Moreover, he knew that the Ten Extremities Corps sect would definitely hand him over to appease the anger of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance. I can't return to the Ten Extremities Corps sect. This time, when I go back, I must conceal my identity. Yin Wuxia's gaze was gloomy as he muttered to himself. Old dog Yin, are you regretting now? When you planned to assassinate me, why didn't you think of this outcome? An unhurried voice slowly sounded, and Yin Wuxia's hair stood on end. He was too familiar with this voice. Wasn't this the main culprit who had caused him to be in such a sorry state? Yin Wuxia didn't turn around to look. He could feel that Zhuowen's oppressive aura was getting closer and closer to him. Yin Wuxia was shocked. He had already burned his essence blood to increase his speed, but Yun was still able to catch up to him. This was unbelievable. Chapter 2843. Servant. He was very confident in the speed of the space-time roulette. The space-time roulette was the most powerful flying artifact of the space-time beast race. The space-time beast race was one of the top 10 races in the Eldritch domain. They had a strong foundation and were skilled in the power of space-time. The space-time roulette they created was very fast. As Zhuowen's cultivation continued to improve, he became more familiar with the space-time law of the space-time roulette. The space-time roulette in his hands was naturally much faster than before. Yin Wuxia was not good at speed. Moreover, he was severely injured and had less than 10% of his strength left. Even if he burned his blood essence, his speed was far from comparable to the space-time roulette. Zhuan, let me live. I've been presumptuous. Today's matter is between you and me. Let's pretend nothing happened. Yin Wuxia's scalp went numb. He hurriedly shouted at Zhuan. Zhuan sneered and said, "Now you're meat on the chopping block and I'm the knife. You're definitely going to die. Don't you think it's a joke to say that to me?" With that, Zhuan took out a divine arrow from the great world and knocked it on the bowstring. He gently pulled the bowstring. Suddenly, a terrifying killing intent swept out like a storm. Yin Wuxia's expression changed drastically. He did not expect Zhuan to be able to shoot such a terrifying arrow again. He was now an arrow at the end of its flight. If he was hit by this arrow again, he would definitely die. Thinking of this, Yin Wuxia hurriedly begged for mercy. "Immortal Master Zhua, I beg you to let me live. As long as you let me live, I'll agree to anything." "If I let you live, you'll agree to anything?" Zhuan asked softly. Yin Wuxia felt that something was wrong, but it was a moment of life and death. He could only bite the bullet and agree. "In that case, hand over your spirit imprint and submit to me," Zhuowen said in an indifferent voice. Zhuan originally planned to kill Yin Wuxia, but he quickly remembered that Yin Wuxia was an elder of the Ten Extremities Corps sect. He probably had a high position in the Ten Extremities Corps sect. If he didn't know that the Ten Extremities Corps sect's underworld was interfered with by someone, he might not hesitate to shoot the arrow. But he knew that there was someone in the Ten Extremities Corps sect. He planned to spare Yin Wuxia. Was Zhuowen? Xiai. Yin Wuxia. Yin Hell was it? World Realm Elusive Underworld Soul Flower? Was Underworld Elusive World? Underworld Soul Flower. Xia Zhu Studio was. Moreover, he also wanted to know what use the realm-eluding Underworld Soul Flower was in the hands of the sect leader of the Ten Extremities Corps sect. He actually valued the realm-eluding Underworld Soul Flower so much that he was willing to resort to such means. Yin Wuxia's face darkened when he heard Zhuowen's words. He immediately refused. He was a late-stage god of creation and an elder of the Ten Extremities Corps sect. He had always been the one to control the lives of others. How could he be willing to become someone else's slave? You don't agree? Zhuowen's gaze was gloomy as he drew the bowstring back a little more. Instantly, the killing intent directed at Yin Wuxia became even more terrifying and terrifying. Yin Wuxia's heart tightened. The shadow of death enveloped his body. He had no doubt that if Kun shot the arrow he would die without a doubt. Wait, stop. I agree. Seeing the killing intent growing more and more terrifying, Yin Wuxia completely let go of her dignity and lowered her head to Zhuowen. He knew very well that if he still didn't agree, he would really die. Between his life and his dignity, Yin Wuxia chose the former without any hesitation. Zhuowen did not put down the Hou-Yi divine bow because of this. He said coldly, "Then hand over your soul imprint first." Yin Wuxia stopped. His eyes flashed, and he revealed an extremely unwilling expression. However, when he sensed the increasingly terrifying killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes, he let out a soft sigh. His right hand formed a sword and pointed at his forehead, and he threw the soul imprint to Zhuowen. Zhuowen caught the spiritual mark and inspected it. After confirming that it hadn't exploded, he nodded and put away the Hou-Yi divine bow and divine arrow. The terrifying killing intent instantly disappeared. Yin Wuxia, who had been on tenterhooks, also heaved a sigh of relief. Yin Wuxia's expression was complicated as she looked at the white-clothed youth with his hands behind his back. He didn't expect that he would become this person's slave in the end. If others knew that he, an elder of the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect and a late-stage Genesis lord, had become the slave of a master of destiny, they would probably laugh at him. However, Yin Wuxia had no choice. Yin Wuxia sighed softly. He already regretted chasing after Zhuowen. Originally, he didn't have much conflict with Zhuowen. After Zhuowen became a celestial master of the Pill Array Immortal Alliance, he didn't want to provoke Zhuowen. Even if the naughty Shiva sent him a message, he still didn't plan to do so. However, after Lei Zixuan and Huang Wu gave him an idea, he agreed to it. Now, he had ended up like this. As he thought of this, Yin Wuxia looked at Lei Zixuan, who was trembling in the corner of the space-time roulette. "Greetings, Master." Yin Wuxia had no choice but to call Zhuowen Master unwillingly. Zhuowen nodded. He didn't care about Yin Wuxia's attitude. Instead, he said indifferently, "Yin Wuxia, do you know about the underworld hell of the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect?" Yin Wuxia was surprised. Naturally, he nodded repeatedly to show that he knew. "You should also know about the realm-eluding underworld soulflower, right?" Yin Wuxia was surprised. This was common knowledge in the host region. Although he didn't know why Zhuowen would ask such an obvious question, he could only nod respectfully. He didn't dare to be negligent in the slightest. "I heard that once foreign cultivators pluck the realm-vanish undersoul flower, they will be killed by the experts of your Ten Extremities Yin Corpse sect and snatch away the realm-vanish undersoul flower?" Zhuowen asked casually. Yin Wuxia's pupils shrank. He fell silent, but his heart was not calm. The realm-eluding underworld soul flower was considered a taboo in the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect. Zhuowen's question was actually considered a secret of the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect. It was information that couldn't be leaked. After all, Zhuowen was an outsider. Yin Wuxia didn't know how Zhuowen knew about this. "Speak," Zhuowen said indifferently. Yin Wuxia's heart trembled, and she hurriedly said, "Master, there is indeed such a thing. However, this is a huge secret of the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect. For Master to know such a thing, you are indeed omnipotent." Zhuowen didn't care about Yin Wuxia's flattery. Instead, he continued, "If I enter the underworld hell and obtain the realm-eluding underworld soul flower, how do I avoid the eyes of the Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect and smoothly take it away?" Yin Wuxia smiled bitterly and said, "Master, the realm-eluding underworld soul flower is too important to the sect leader. Once the realm-eluding underworld soul flower appears, the sect leader will definitely know immediately. Then he will send experts to pluck it." Chapter 2844. Thunder God's Tereshua narrowed his eyes and said in a low voice, "Tell me how to avoid the spies your Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect placed at the location where the elusive realm underworld soul flower will appear, and then smoothly bring out the elusive realm underworld soul flower. Don't talk about useless things." Yin Wuxia said helplessly, "Master, there's something you don't know. The Ten Extremes Yin Corpse sect has set up many spies in the Umbra Hell. Any realm elusive underworld soul flower or any treasure more valuable than the realm elusive underworld soul flower would probably be recorded by these spies immediately. Then, the corresponding countermeasures would be taken. It's very difficult for you to avoid these spies and obtain the elusive underworld flower. Zhuo Wen calmly looked at Yin Wuxie until the latter's scalp went numb from being stared at. Yin Wuxie sighed dejectedly and said, "This lowly one has an idea, but I'll have to trouble my lord." "Tell me," Zhuo Wen said indifferently. "It's like this. The elusive underworld flower is very important to the sect leader of the 10 Extremities Yin Corps sect. As for the specific reason, I'm not too sure. Usually, if a foreign cultivator obtains the elusive underworld flower, it won't end well. However, if a disciple of our sect obtains it and hands it over to the sect leader, he will be handsomely rewarded." Yin Wuxie smiled ingratiatingly. Zhuo Wen narrowed his eyes and said, "You mean you want me to join your 10 Extremities Yin Corps sect and become a part of it?" Yin Wuxie hurriedly said, "Master, please don't misunderstand. This is indeed the best method this little one can think of. Furthermore, this little one's life and death is completely in the hands of Master. This little one doesn't dare to play any tricks." Zhuo Wen nodded. Yin Wuxie's soul imprint was completely under his control. If he wanted to kill Yin Wuxie, he only needed a thought. "Help me arrange my disciple's identity. It's best if you can arrange for me to be in a position related to the Umbra Hell," Zhuo Wen said indifferently. Yin Wuxie hurriedly nodded and bowed, agreeing repeatedly. "Now, follow me to Thunder God Garden," Zhuo Wen said and left with Yin Wuxie. Lei Zixuan, who was lying in the corner of the space-time roulette, turned pale when she heard what Zhuo Wen said. "Immortal Master Zhuo, it's all my fault. It has nothing to do with Thunder God Court. Please spare Thunder God Court this once," Lei Zixuan hurriedly said. Zhuo Wen's eyes were cold as he said expressionlessly, "Nothing? That's the funniest joke I've ever heard. Back then, your Lightning God Garden's Lei Lidin teamed up with Huang Wu and chased me until I was in an extremely sorry state. If it wasn't for the fact that I have some powerful trump cards, I'm afraid I would be dead by now." Lei Zixuan revealed a hopeful expression and quickly asked, "Immortal Master Zhuo, do you know where my master is now?" "You must know about it, right?" Zhuo Wen said indifferently, "He's dead. And I was the one who killed him." When he said this, not only Lei Zixuan, but even Yin Wuxie couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. However, Yin Wuxie now thought about it and felt that it was reasonable. Although Lei Lidin was slightly weaker than him, he was only a mid-stage god of creation, and the divine arrow that Zhuo Wen shot out was truly terrifying to the extreme. Even he couldn't block it, let alone Lei Lidin. At the same time, Yin Wuxie cursed in his heart. If he had known that Lei Lidin was killed by Zhuo Wen, he would rather die than assassinate Zhuo Wen. Now, he had ended up like this and had become Zhuo Wen's slave. His life was not even guaranteed. Thinking of this, Yin Wuxie coldly glared at Lei Zixuan. Clearly, he put most of the blame on Lei Zixuan. Lei Zixuan was dazed. When Lei Litian's life mark disappeared, she already knew that Lei Litian might have died. However, she trusted Lei Litian too much. She felt that Lei Litian shouldn't have died, so she didn't believe it. Now that Zhuo Wen had personally admitted it, the last trace of hope in Lei Zixuan's heart was also destroyed. She was very clear that after losing Lei Litian, the Thunder God Park was already a Dao Palace level force that only looked impressive. "You're going to destroy the Thunder God Park, right?" Lei Zixuan was dazed as she looked at Zhuo Wen and said self-mockingly, "No, I'm going to reorganize the Thunder God Park. Also, I'm going to reorganize the Huangji family. I'm going to combine these two Dao palaces together," Zhuo Wen said indifferently. Lei Zixuan and Yin Wuxie were both shocked. They didn't expect Zhuo Wen to be so bold as to forcefully reorganize two Dao palaces. Although the highest leaders of the Thunder God Park and the Huangji family were killed, Lei Litian and Huang Wu's prestige still existed. If Zhuo Wen went to reorganize them alone, it would be impossible for the cultivators of the Thunder God Park and the Huangji family to accept him. "Master, regardless of whether it is the Thunder God Garden or the Huangji clan, they are both Dao Palace level factions that have developed for countless years. Their foundations are deeply rooted. Even if their leaders have been killed by you, it is basically impossible for you to rely on this to subdue them. Moreover, these 2 Dao palaces have many Dao palaces under their control. When the time comes, it'll be very easy for a huge upheaval to occur. It'll be very difficult for you to suppress it alone. Yin Wuxia was deeply worried as he raised his worries. Zhuan waved his hand, indicating that Yin Wuxia didn't need to worry. He would deal with this matter. Soon, Zhuowen's group arrived at the Thunder God Park. Zhuan also sent a message to Tong Qimei, asking them to return to the Thunder God Park. In the past few days, Lei Zixuan's soul imprint had been forcefully subdued by Zhun. Her life and death were in the hands of Zhuan. Therefore, she obeyed Zhuowen's every word. He didn't directly kill Lei Zixuan. Instead, he asked her to stay. After all, Lei Zixuan was the great senior sister of the Thunder God Park. If she was around, it would be much more convenient to reorganize the Thunder God Park. Great senior sister. When Zhuowen's group of 3 entered the Thunder God Park, many cultivators cupped their hands and bowed to Lei Zixuan. It could be seen that Lei Zixuan had quite a bit of prestige in the Thunder God Park. However, there were also many cultivators who looked at Zhuowen and Yin Wuxia in front of Lei Zixuan with astonishment. This was because from Lei Zixuan's position, it could be seen that Lei Zixuan seemed to be very afraid of this person and faintly felt inferior to him. However, they didn't have too many suspicions. They only thought that Lei Zixuan had brought an important guest with an extraordinary status. When Lei Zixuan brought Zhuowen to the highest point of the Thunder God Park, the Thunder God Heavenly Platform, many cultivators in the Thunder God Park became restless. They felt that something was wrong. The Thunder God Heavenly Platform was the most sacred place in the Thunder God Park. Below the platform was an incomparably huge plaza. Usually, only the Thunder God Park's master, Lei Li, had the qualifications to ascend the Thunder God Heavenly Platform. Moreover, once one ascended the platform, it basically meant that something major had happened. But now, Lei Zixuan actually brought 2 unfamiliar cultivators up the Thunder God Heavenly Platform. Was she crazy? Many cultivators of the Thunder God Park gathered around the plaza. Among them, there was no lack of experts of the Thunder God Park. They all looked at Zhuowen's group of 3 with unfriendly gazes. Great senior sister, what is the meaning of this? Only the Thunder God Park's master has the qualifications to ascend the Thunder God Heavenly Platform. Why are you going up there? Moreover, you brought 2 unfamiliar cultivators. Chapter 2845. Lei Fu said. The young cultivator's words were like a fuse that ignited a bomb. The surrounding crowd immediately went into an uproar and discussions filled the entire plaza like a wave. Everyone was puzzled as to why Lei Zixuan would do such a thing. On the Thunder God rooftop, Lei Zixuan smiled bitterly as she looked at Zhuowen in awe. She hesitated for a moment, then stood on the rooftop and said, "Everyone, the reason why I'm here is because I have 2 extremely important things to announce." The moment Lei Zixuan said this, the plaza immediately quieted down. Although Lei Zixuan's cultivation wasn't high in the Thunder God Garden, her status wasn't low, especially among the younger generation of cultivators. Moreover, she was young, but her talent was very high. She was highly valued by Lei Lidian, and even some of the higher-ups of the older generation would give Lei Zixuan some face. Now that Lei Zixuan was going to announce something important, although it was still inappropriate to stand on the Thunder God rooftop, no one continued to make a ruckus. They wanted to hear what the important thing was. Our pavilion master has fallen. Lei Zixuan let out a long sigh and announced Lei Litian's death. The plaza fell into silence at first, but soon after, it was filled with an uproar that could topple mountains and overturn seas. The pavilion master has fallen? How is that possible? In the host region, other than the 5 Dao palaces and the mysterious blood prison, which other force could have an expert who could kill our pavilion master? But soon, the noisy plaza suddenly quieted down, and an old man slowly walked out from the crowd. This old man had a hunched back and walked over step by step, like a candle in the wind. From the outside, this was an old man who was about to enter his coffin. However, the appearance of this old man caused the plaza that was about to go out of control to completely quiet down. Elder Lei? You actually came out of seclusion? Lei Zixuan looked at the old man who walked out from the crowd. Her beautiful eyes revealed a trace of surprise, but it quickly dimmed. Zhuowen's eyes revealed a look of surprise. Although this old man looked haggard and decayed, his unremarkable body faintly emitted a heart-palpitating fluctuation. Zhuowen was no stranger to this fluctuation. It was the sign of someone who had reached the third step of Dao confirmation. Oh, it's actually Lei Fudao. I always thought that this old fellow was dead. I didn't expect him to still be alive. In the end, he even stepped into the third step of Dao confirmation. Yin Wuxie made a soft sound of surprise. His gaze fell on the old man in the square, and he seemed very surprised. Zhuowen naturally did not know the identity of this old man, but Yin Wuxie had secretly introduced him to him, so he had some understanding of him. Lei Fudao was the previous court master of the Lightning God Park, but his talent was far inferior to the current Lei Lidian. He had been in the position for many years, but his cultivation had always been stuck at the half-step Genesis stage. Later on, Lei Lidian defied the heavens and smoothly became a creator lord. Lei Fudao abdicated and passed the position of court lord to Lei Lidian. As for Lei Fudao, he was in seclusion and never appeared. Because it was too long ago, the cultivators in Lightning God Park and the outside world all subconsciously thought that Lei Fudao might have fallen. However, they did not expect Lei Fudao to appear in Lightning God Park again, and as a creator lord at that. Master, this old man is nothing to be afraid of. He's just an early-stage creator lord, Yin Wuxie whispered to Zhuowen. The many cultivators in the square also became friendly. They also felt the powerful aura on Lei Fudao's body, and they knew that Lei Fudao had successfully advanced to the Genesis stage. The people who had fallen into panic because of Lei Litian's death also calmed down a lot. They knew that as long as their Lightning God Park still had the support of a creator lord, their Lightning God Park would be able to stand tall. Lei Fudao stood upright. His slightly turbid eyes fell on Yin Wuxie, who was beside Zhuowen. He was first stunned, then a look of shock appeared on his face. After that, everyone noticed to their surprise that Lei Fudao bowed respectfully to Yin Wuxie and said, "Could it be that you're the 10 Extremes Yin Corps Sect's elder Yin Wuxie?" He's from the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect? Everyone in the square was in an uproar. They somewhat understood why Lei Zixuan wanted to bring these two people to the Lightning God Sky platform. The 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect was one of the 5 Dao palaces, and its status was extremely high. Yin Wuxie was also an elder of the 10 Extremes Yin Corps sect, so his status was naturally higher than the Lightning God Park's master. There was naturally no problem for him to ascend the Lightning God Sky platform. As for Zhuowen, he was subconsciously ignored by everyone. The main reason was that Zhuowen was too young. In their opinion, this white-robed youth should be one of Yin Wuxie's juniors or subordinates. That's me. Yin Wuxie cupped his hands casually. Lei Fudao's strength and status were below his, so he naturally did not need to pay too much attention to him. Elder Yin, please excuse us for not going out to welcome you. It's just that the Thunder God Heavenly Platform isn't a place to receive guests. Elder Yin, why don't you come down and follow me to the guest hall? Lei Fu chuckled. Elder Yin snorted and said coldly, "This old man has come here for an important matter. I'm not here to receive guests." What's the matter? Lei Fudao's heart skipped a beat as he felt that something was amiss. Lei Zixuan will tell you later. It's not appropriate for you to ask me. Elder Yin did not say anything else, but stood silently beside Zhuowen. Lei Fudao looked at Zhuowen with some astonishment. From his point of view, it seemed that Yin Wuxie valued the white-robed youth beside him very much, and faintly felt that he was inferior to the white-robed youth. Lei Fudao thought of an unbelievable possibility, but he quickly shook his head and rejected it. He felt that the idea he had just come up with was too unrealistic. Zixuan, you said that Li Tian has fallen. Do you have evidence? Lei Fudao turned to look at Lei Zixuan and asked with a grave expression. Lei Zixuan took out a jade pendant that was covered in cracks and said, "This jade pendant contains the life imprint of the court master. Now that it has shattered, it means that the court master's life has already passed away. Lei Fudao waved his right hand and took the jade pendant from Lei Zixuan's hand. After carefully examining it, he finally sighed and said, Li Tian has indeed fallen. Everyone sighed, but at the same time, there was even more anger and confusion. Who had killed their court master in the host region? Could it really be a force on the level of the 5 Dao palaces? Zixuan, do you know who killed Li Tian? Lei Fudao's expression was unsightly, and there was a trace of anger in his voice as he began to question Lei Zixuan. Lei Lidian was the disciple that Lei Fudao was most proud of. To be able to smoothly reach the 3rd step of Dao and become a late-stage god of creation in tens of thousands of years, it could be said that Lei Litian's talent was extremely terrifying. If Lei Lidian had more time, it would not be impossible for him to lead the lightning god's court to an even higher peak. Lei Zixuan glanced at Zhuowen and hesitated for a moment before saying, I'm actually not too sure, but I found this at the scene where the court master died. Chapter 2846. The position of the court master, Blood Prison's assassins. Lei Fudao's eyes were filled with anger as he asked in confusion, Our Thunder God's court has never provoked the Blood Prison before. Why would the Blood Prison send assassins to kill Lei Lidian? I don't know either. Perhaps the Lei Garden Master offended someone back then, so that person might have bribed the Blood Prison to assassinate the Garden Master. Lei Zixuan said, The Blood Prison is too despicable. They actually tried to assassinate our Garden Master for no reason. This hatred, our Thunder God's court will not live under the same sky as them. Yes, that Blood Prison is too arrogant. Perhaps our Thunder God's court cannot compare to that Blood Prison, but we are not someone he can bully at will. Everyone in the square was enraged, revealing their anger. Lei Fudao gestured towards the plaza with his hand, causing the plaza to quiet down. He looked at Lei Zixuan and said, Zixuan, don't you have 2 important things to announce? What is the other thing? Lei Zixuan hesitated for a moment, then said in a deep voice, Before Lei Garden Master died, he had already appointed me as the new master of Thunder God's court. After saying that, Lei Zixuan's words were immediately drowned out by the uproar in the plaza. The position of the Garden Master is too childish. Although Great Senior Sister's talent is very good, her cultivation is still shallow. It is not appropriate for her to succeed the position of the Garden Master now. I also feel that Great Senior Sister is too young. If a few thousand years later, I have no objections to Great Senior Sister succeeding the position of the Garden Master. Lei Zixuan's face was a little ugly. She did not expect that after the announcement of her succeeding the position of the Garden Master, there would be so many objections. Of course, this was not something that Lei Zixuan was willing to do, but something that Zhuowen had asked her to do. Right now, Lei Zixuan was Zhuowen's servant, and her life and death were all in Zhuowen's hands. If Lei Zixuan became the master of Thunder God's court, it would mean that Zhuowen had taken control of the entire Thunder God's court. It was just that Lei Zixuan was in the light while Zhuowen was in the dark. However, what Zhuowen did not expect was that Lei Fudao would actually appear in Thunder God's court. If it wasn't for Lei Fudao, with Lei Zixuan's prestige, it wouldn't be too difficult for her to become the Lightning God's Garden Master. But now that Lei Fudao had appeared, it was a huge obstacle for Lei Zixuan to succeed the position of Yuan Master. After all, Lei Fudao was the previous court master. Now that he had come out of seclusion, he had successfully validated the 3rd step of the Dao. In the Lightning God Garden, there was no one more qualified than Lei Fudao to succeed the position of Lightning God Garden Master. Lei Fu chuckled and gestured for everyone to quiet down. He smiled at Lei Zixuan and said, Zixuan, both Li Tian and I have seen your talent. In my opinion, your talent is even stronger than Li Tian's. But you also know that your experience is still shallow, and your cultivation is not high. If you succeed the position of the court master now, I'm afraid it will be difficult to convince the masses. How about this? I'll temporarily take over the position of court master. When you reach the 3rd step of Dao validation, I'll abdicate my position. Lei Fudao's tone was very calm, and it was unanimously approved by everyone in the square. Lei Zixuan frowned slightly and glanced at Jun. Obviously, she wanted Jun to make the decision. Senior Lei, you may have misunderstood. Before Lightning God Garden Master died, he had already made a will for Miss Lei to succeed the position of the court master. Miss Lei's experience is indeed not high, but there is no need to give the position to you. If Senior Lei is really thinking for the sake of the Lightning God Garden, then he should support Miss Lei to succeed the position. You only need to assist from the side. Zhuan stepped forward at this moment. His eyes were cold, and his voice was clear and melodious, spreading throughout the square. Zhuan was very clear about what Lei Fudao was planning. If he really gave the position of the court master to Lei Fudao, he was afraid that Lei Fudao would not give up his position in the future. Moreover, even if Lei Fudao would give up his position, Lei Fudao was not Zhuowen's subordinate. Letting Lei Fudao succeed the position would not benefit Zhuowen at all. Lei Fudao frowned slightly and looked at Zhuowen with some displeasure. He felt that this kid was meddling in other people's business. Who do you think you are? You are not a member of the Lightning God Garden. What right do you have to say such things? Senior Lei is the previous court master. Now that he has come out of seclusion, he has advanced to the creator stage. He deserves to succeed the position of court master. Moreover, didn't Senior Lei say that? As long as eldest senior sister advances to the creator stage in the future, she will naturally give up her position again. Don't you understand? In the square, a young cultivator suddenly pointed at Zhuowen and berated him. His eyes were full of disdain. Zhuowen was stunned. Then he grinned at that young cultivator, revealing a row of white teeth. When everyone saw Zhuowen smile, they inexplicably felt a chill run down their spines. That young cultivator also felt a chill run down his spine and subconsciously retreated. However, he soon felt a powerful force enveloping his body and pulling him over. He involuntarily appeared on the rooftop, and his neck was already in the palm of the white-robed young man's right hand. Everyone in the square was in an uproar. Then they revealed angry expressions. Clearly, Zhuowen's actions had completely infuriated them. There were even some impulsive cultivators who directly attacked Zhuowen on the rooftop. Zhuowen waved his sleeves and took out array flags. He set up a powerful eternal-level defensive array around him and easily blocked the attacks from the square. An eternal-level divine array master? Lei Fudao was a little surprised. He was a little surprised that Zhuowen could cultivate the array Dao to such a level at such a young age. It was really not simple. Young man, aren't you being too presumptuous? This is the territory of the Thunder God Garden. You can't act presumptuously here. Lei Fudao's eyes were gloomy. He took a step forward and blasted his right palm toward Zhuowen's head. Lei Fudao used all of his strength. A golden light rose up like a blazing sun and transformed into an incomparably huge golden palm. He intended to kill Zhuowen in one move. After all, Lei Fudao was an early-stage creator. The eternal-level array that Zhuowen had set up temporarily was useless in front of Lei Fudao's attack. Zhuowen stood motionless. His eyes were as calm as water. He didn't care about Lei Fudao's full-strength attack at all. However, when Lei Fudao's attack was about to land on Zhuowen, an even more terrifying force blasted over and instantly disintegrated Lei Fudao's attack. Lei Fudao's face changed drastically. The moment his attack was disintegrated, he retreated. However, the force was too fast and terrifying. It landed on his right cheek as if he had foreseen it. It was a skinny palm that gave Lei Fudao a hard slap in the face. Lei Fudao screamed and fell to the ground. He spat out blood mixed with broken teeth. His body twitched and he couldn't get up. He was seriously injured by this slap. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.